Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of our people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings oor die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou, en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkomige te oorkom en ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelele ilizwe letu nabantu balo umisele ukulunga kwipondo letu. Nkosi sikelele I Afrika, nina abantuano bayo, kokele inkokele zayo, yenike ukolo I Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. Order. I want to take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed guests to the sitting today. Please note that for the sitting, the standing rules of the House will apply. Further, in compliance with the powers, privileges and immunities of Parliament and the Provincial Legislatures Act of 2004, this entire hall, including all visitor seating areas, passages and ablution facilities, will be regarded as the precincts of the Provincial Parliament. Order. Before we proceed, I would like to remind members about some of the logistical arrangements. Members, please note that by agreement with all parties, there are 2 lecterns placed on either side of the presiding officer's chairs, from where the members participating in the debate will make their speeches. Members must use the lecterns on their side. Members must switch their microphones on when they are recognized by the chair. Each member will have a separate infrared device on his or her desk, as well as an earpiece using the channel selection buttons. So for translation, select channel 1 for Afrikaans to English translation on the right side of the unit. Select channel 2 for isiXhosa to English translation on the right side of the unit. Select channel 3 for Afrikaans to isiXhosa translation on the right side of the unit. And on the right side of the unit are the channel controls, and on the left are the volume controls. Members, please note that the service officers are seated at the back of the entrance of the hall. The Secretary will now read the first order of the day.
Debat oor die premiersrede.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I've received a copy of the Premier's State of the Province Address delivered in the House on Thursday, 20th of February 2020. The address is printed in the minutes of the proceedings, and I now place it before the House for debate. I recognize the Honorary Dugmore.
Point of order, Madam Speaker, Deputy.
I recognize
Just want to
you,
check, is the
Honourable.
House, do we have a quorum? Because I see no ANC members here.
I have been told that we do have a quorum. That's correct.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I've never before been referred to as an honorary member, but I'm sure you meant honourable.
Full apologies about that.
Deputy Speaker, there has been much debate since President Ramaphosa delivered his State of the Nation address in Parliament and in our country. FW de Klerk's statement that apartheid was not a crime against humanity created much anger and resentment across our province and country. De Klerk had to be reminded that it was the United Nations that had declared apartheid as a crime against humanity in 1973. President Ramaphosa, in his reply to the debate yesterday on the State of the Nation address, described such comments as treasonous. Today, in 2020, it is treasonous to actively undermine genuine efforts to implement policies which are aimed at reversing the vicious system of apartheid and its impact on black South Africans, colored, African, and India. But we should also never underestimate the impact that this system had on white South Africans. Apartheid instilled hatred, fear, and deep-seated prejudices against black South Africans amongst many white South Africans. On the other hand, we all know that our country does have a proud history of involvement of all South Africans, black and white, in the struggle against apartheid. We need to acknowledge that undeniably, apartheid gave rise to white privilege, a privilege built on deeply embedded and structural inequalities, which in fact empowered only a minority of South Africans. But it was this struggle that gave rise to the principle of non-racialism, non-sexism, democracy, equality. These principles, in fact, being the very antithesis of apartheid. It was these values and the fearless commitment to destroy apartheid and oppression that brought thousands of South Africans, many from here in Mitchell's Plain and in the Western Cape, to this very civic centre, the Rockland Civic Centre, on the 20th of August, 1983, to launch the United Democratic Front. Deputy Speaker, it was in this hall that people cried out, UDF unites, apartheid divides. It was in this hall where the people sang, Senzeni na, wat het ons gedoen? What have we done? They also sang, Kudala, sisebenzi, lamabul. And they also asked, Piervi Botha, kuteni na kunjenjenje. It was here that the masses of our people called for the unbanning of the African National Congress and other liberation movements and the release of Nelson Mandela and all political prisoners. It was here in the Rockland Civic Centre 37 years ago where clauses of the ANC's Freedom Charter were celebrated. The people shall share in the country's wealth. South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. There shall be houses, security and comfort. The doors of learning and culture sal vir almal oop wees. Deputy Speaker, I'm happy to announce that after representations from the African National Congress in the Western Cape, that Minister Nathi Mthethwa has informed us that the National Department of Arts, Culture and Sport has initiated a process to have the Rockland Civic Centre declared a National Heritage Site. We believe that it would be appropriate to mark this declaration in a ceremony on the 20th of August 2020 in this very Civic Centre. Deputy Speaker, I want to argue today that in fact many of the DA's policies, not all, but many, have the deliberate intention of actually preserving the persistent racial inequality which epitomizes the legacy of apartheid. If you look at the DA's manifesto, we have fought long and hard to make sure that there's a minimum wage in this country. If you look at the DA manifesto, they actually are against the minimum wage and want workers to be able to opt out to receive 1,800 Rand a month compared to the 3,500, which is the minimum wage. That is DA policy entrenching the very inequality when it comes to wages.
Order.
Policies of anti-redress, which have divided this party between those that would want to build a nation and that those that would want to preserve privileges. That's why we see the divisions within the DA today. The ANC speakers will be participating in this debate. Member Masuli Kama will be speaking about safety. Member Nkondlo
Order.
will be speaking about the economy. Member Yanda Bans about arts and culture. And we also have Member Danville Smith that will be talking about local government. The vast majority of citizens in the Western Cape are without quality health care and are without medical aid. Patients at the Mitchells Plain and Khayelitsha hospitals stand in long queues. Yet Premier Windi comes here yesterday and argues against universal quality health care for all, which the National Health Insurance System will bring.
Order.
Worse, Deputy
Order.
Speaker,
Order.
the Provincial Department of Health, on its own letterhead, attacks the NHI at the public hearings using this official letterhead, while at the very same department is receiving NHI funding from the national government to implement NHI pilot projects. The DA in this province has denied the youth of Mitchells Plain and the Western Cape the opportunity to study medicine in Cuba, and has also refused that Cuban-trained doctors can work in our province. Inequality in healthcare is a direct result of the legacy of apartheid, and the DA's resistance to the quality and universal healthcare for all must be condemned in the strongest terms. When it comes to education, it is not only disingenuous but also false to claim that education in the Western Cape is in good shape. Speaker, we have a crisis with education provisioning, and it is time that the Premier and the DA faces up to this. The crisis is caused by a leadership failure, both at the political as well as the departmental level. This province was once number one for matric performance. We now languish in fourth place after Gauteng, the Northwest, and the Free State. As we speak, 35 days into the school year, there are still 3,800 learners not placed in our schools. Even more serious are the declining literacy and numeracy levels in the lower grade. You cannot, when you look at grade 3 and 9, it's very clear that they have shown a decline, yet the department wants to spin and talk only about grade 9 and compare it to 2018 and 2011. This is in fact misleading the people. It's not honest. It's not honest. Learners are not safe at our schools. And the question that we need to ask is, why are there ex-IMG, institutional management, government advisors, and teachers who are in excess doing tedious work in district offices while these posts were abolished? Surely they should be deployed in our schools as teachers. We also need to be careful about creating an impression that all so-called collaboration schools are succeeding. One school in particular, which I will not name here today, has dropped from a pass rate of 60% in 2018 to a pass rate of 40% in 2019. The DA has neglected schools in historically disadvantaged communities where the number of schools performing below 60% at matric has in fact doubled. Here in Mitchells Plain, Speaker, there are over 65 primary high schools. Can one imagine how many high schools there are? There are only 17 high schools. But what is more shocking is that over the last 10 years, one single high school was built. But this isn't even a proper high school. If you go to Tafelsachai, AZ Bourbon, you see some containers. But in 10 years, they haven't built a proper high school in Mitchells Plain. That's the reality. And instead of blaming the accommodation problems, are we surprised then that there's a dropout rate in Mitchells Plain? Instead of blaming the accommodation problems on in-migration, surely we need to be looking at alternative solutions. As the ANC, we call for the reprioritization of the entire provincial budget. If 1.4 billion could be found from provincial reserves, which mainly come from unfilled posts, then surely, if there was a political will, we can better fund education in this province. Our shadow MEC, we call him the Panyaza Lusufi of the Western Cape, because he does things. He actually gets things done compared to the current MEC that we have, who complains and blames in the true spirit of Helen Zille, her favorite appointment. As one possible measure our shadow MEC has proposed that we engage former Model C schools to take just an extra 10 learners per grade at every high school. This would amount to 50 extra learners in a high school at an average of only 2 or 3 learners per class. There are about 120 former Model C schools in the province, which would, if you put that calculation together, amount to about 6,200 extra places. We believe that many former Model C schools, as well as the governing body associations, the foundation and FEDSAS, are willing to discuss this proposal. Yet the MEC doesn't even think of initiating this. We are not being prescriptive, but we put this forward for discussion. Governing body foundation, FEDSAS, and the SGBs of former Model C schools. In the majority of our schools, we have too few teachers, we have overcrowded classrooms, and we have an MEC who has chosen to bring a law to this province about allowing schools to sell alcohol in particular conditions, whereas the majority of schools in this province were opposed to that. She listened to the voice of mainly former Model C schools in this regard. That's what she has been involved in at the behest of the former Premier, Helen Zille. Instead of doing what the Premier says we should do, focus on getting the basics right. She has failed. Speaker, I have in my hand a concept note and, in fact, drawings for the first pilot project to build houses for teachers and public servants at schools. I wish to acknowledge in the House Principal Ronald Bantam from the Castlesvlei Comprehensive School, is sitting over there, whose SGB is in full support of this proposal, which I will present to the Premier next week and propose that an intergovernmental task team, including national government, human settlements, education, be established to implement this pilot at Castlesvlei Comprehensive and explore creative ways of taking this pilot project to many more schools who sit with underutilized school land. The model, which we shall hear more about, is based on simply using 1,500 square meters of land that is available at the school, 27 units of which we have the designs. You will see these designs of the 27 units that we are proposing to be built there, the financial model, which at the end of the day will help Castlesvlei Comprehensive generate funds so that they can employ extra teachers and do other things that the school needs. We believe that this is indeed a game changer, and we are happy that the Premier has requested us to come with this proposal, and we are more than willing to work with all spheres of government to make this a reality in this school and many other schools across the province. This will help with safety, it will help to stop vandalism, and it will provide more. Having teachers at the school will actually assist. The legacy of apartheid spatial planning has left deep scars across our city and province. We were extremely disappointed to hear no concrete plan from the Premier to identify and release well-located land and buildings to address the affordable housing crisis in the province. Instead, the Premier blames those who occupied Helen Bowden and Woodstock Hospital. And we want to be clear, we don't support illegal invasions, but remember, Premier Windey was part of a cabinet when his MEC Madikizela's department proposed Tafelberg to be used for social housing. Mayor de Lille from the city of Cape Town proposed that it be used for social housing. Yet they went ahead and sold Tafelberg to private interests, and then there was a reaction and which led to those invasions, which we do not justify. But it is rich of the Premier to come here today and raise that issue in the way that he has raised it. And I would ask, Deputy Speaker, once again, is this type of conduct not conduct that actually perpetuates the very legacy of apartheid? Speaker, we support all efforts to sort out the serious crisis that has beset Metro Rail. The lives of hundreds of thousands of commuters are affected. The solution, however, is not the DA proposal to provincialize rail. It's about working together across all spheres of government. It was no surprise that the Premier failed to even mention the My City crisis that affects thousands of Mitchells Plain and Khayelitsha commuters. The My City bus station in Mitchells Plain stands empty, a legacy to the DA City of Cape Town's failure to deal with this problem. We should celebrate the children who will soon be appointed. But we should never forget that the DA cabinet, that the Premier was also part of, refused to implement the mandatory provisions of the provincial constitution for more than 10 years. This in a province where children and women are most vulnerable. In our minds this morning, and our prayers go out to the family of Tasney van Wyk, who was brutally murdered. We have to protect our children, and we are hoping that the Children's Commissioner, once he or she is appointed, will be able to assist, working with all departments. Our province should also be aware that this DA government continues to refuse to appoint an environmental commissioner, also a compulsory provision in the provincial constitution. We are not convinced at this stage of the arguments which would say that we should amend the constitution so that you do not have to appoint this commission. In a context of climate change and the need to build a resilience province, we as the ANC will intensify our campaign to have the lawful provisions of the provincial constitution implemented. Speaker, the Premier said we don't need smart cities, yet only 2 or 3 kilometers away from here, we have the Swartklip land that lies between Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha. It was a former arms factory, now owned by AXA. This site has huge potential to create a city within a city where people from Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha and its surrounds can live, can work and play. Already, the Department of Higher Education is building a massive satellite campus of the False Bay College to serve the youth of this area. I want to salute the leadership of AXA, who are committed to involving all surrounding communities in this development and all the opportunities that it has to offer. And I appeal to the communities of Mitchell's Plain and surrounds to unite and take full advantage of this opportunity. We also welcome the decision of the National Department of Higher Education to build a second satellite campus in Bayview. It is unfortunate that the DA City of Cape Town refused to make this land available at no cost, instead of choosing to sell the land, which the children of Mitchell's Plain will benefit from. At the same time, the DA City of Cape Town wants to renew a lease of 55 hectares of land in Rondebosch to a golf club for 1,000 rand a year.
Honourable
I ask
Member, your
again,
time is
is this
up.
not further evidence of a party
Finish off.
that is entrenching apartheid spatial planning and denying opportunities to the victims of apartheid? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I call on the next speaker, I would just like us to pause for a moment. In terms of Rule 6, ladies and gentlemen in the galleries, members of the public attending a sitting of the House or the committee may not create, comment, take part, clap at all in terms of the proceedings of this House. So please may I ask your indulgence. I have heard some interjections coming from the public, but this is only the privilege of the honourable members in Parliament. Thank you very much. I now recognise Honourable Madikizela.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, Premier, the Leader of the Opposition, Cabinet colleagues, members of the House, honoured guests, and all the leaders of the political parties who are here. And I want to start by thanking you, Deputy Speaker, and the Speaker for bringing Parliament to the community of Mitchell's Plain. This is a clear demonstration of a government of the people. Deputy Speaker, on Tuesday last week, the 11th of February, the nation commemorated 30 years since the release of our first democratically elected President, Nelson Mandela, from prison. It was a sign of victory against a terrible system of apartheid, which was declared a crime against humanity by United Nations. And I agree with you, Honourable Member Doug Moore, when you said that. The whole country was jubilant, full of hope, at the prospect of a better future. Unfortunately, until today, that hope remained a pipe dream under the ANC national government. On that year, Deputy Speaker, 11th of February 1990, the employment rate in South Africa was 18.7%, even at the height of apartheid. Today, unemployment is more than doubled that year at 38.7%, with more than 10.4 million South Africans unemployed under the ANC government, which is a serious indictment of this government. Mr. Speaker, we need to be absolutely clear. The fight against apartheid was never about replacing an oppressor with a different face. It was never about enrichment of politically few connected through BEE deals while millions languish in poverty. It was never about looting of state resources by few to the disadvantage of the majority. And as a DA government in the Western Cape, we take full responsibility for our shortcomings. But I'm very happy because this DA government spent every cent that is directed at it to make sure that we improve the lives of this province. For far too long, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the national government has been allowed to emotionally blackmail South Africans, and they got away with the matter by always blaming the plight of South Africans on apartheid. On Thursday last week, Mr. Speaker, and yesterday, the nation waited with abated breath, hoping that maybe, just maybe, President Ramaphosa will rise to the occasion and provide solutions to their plight. His address came a day after the release of quarterly labor survey by Stats SA confirming that unemployment in South Africa continued to rise. Unfortunately, we didn't get the inspiration that all of us were hoping for. His speech didn't go far enough to show the sense of urgency needed to attract investors, to grow our economy and create jobs. Instead, he confirmed that things will indeed get worse for those millions of South Africans who were hoping for a different message. Mr. Speaker, I must state this categorically clear, that as long as President Ramaphosa and the ANC government continue with this absurd idea and policy decisions that collapse countries like Venezuela and Zimbabwe, ideas like land expropriation without compensation, nationalization of health through NHI, nationalizations of banks, South Africa is heading in the same direction as those countries. Because President Ramaphosa must understand, it's not his intentions that count, but it's what he does after that speech that he delivered in the House last week and yesterday. Deputy Speaker, I must make this point very clear that land reform in South Africa is urgent, and poor landless people are losing patience. And I must also say that Section 25 of our Constitution does make a provision for this to be done. Instead of dealing with the elephant in the room under the ANC government, which is corruption and incompetence, we have resorted to knee-jerk reaction that will bring our economy to its knees, as it is the case with Eskom, SAA, Land Bank, etc. All these state-owned entities are collapsing our economy, and yet this ANC government wants to nationalize more entities. The question that we are asking ourselves, Deputy Speaker, is how on earth do we then trust the very same government that is failing us spectacularly every day with blackouts and dysfunctional rail transport to nationalize other critical levers of our economy and health? In sharp contrast to the state of the nation, Premier Windi yesterday outlined a clear plan for this government to keep our communities safe, provide energy security, grow the economy, and create jobs. That's why this province, despite unprecedented population growth, remains the only one where people have a prospect of finding a job with lowest unemployment in South Africa. Deputy Speaker, although South Africa has a certain reputation for being able to buck trends and get away with things which internationally are not normally achieved, we do not exist in an insulating bubble. Many of our citizens, along with millions throughout the world, are disillusioned with our government. Our citizens and voters are exposed to enormous pressures and are desperate for hopeful signs and indications that government cares about them as people. These hopeful signs and indications cannot be just words strung together to make promises. Instead, they must be real and contain clear sign of a better life. Deputy Speaker, with this in mind, I want to talk briefly about 3 areas in which the Western Cape government makes a real difference to the lives of the people living in this province. That is transport, road safety, and infrastructure. Although the Western Cape is not a direct provider of public transport, it has a key role to play in its regulation, funding, and monitoring. It is the interim contracting authority for Golden Arrow bus service, subsidized service in Cape Town environment, which transport more than 200,000 people every day. The importance of this regular service to our residents in a context of what has been for a very long period a disrupted, unsafe, and deteriorating rail service, and more recently, a suspended N2 Express service cannot be overemphasized. One of additional consequences of failure of the commuter rail system and the suspension of the N2 Express service has been a significant additional demand for all forms of taxi services, your minibus taxis, metered taxis, and e-hailing taxis. The province is charged with the issuing of operating licenses on the basis of recommendations made by municipalities. This requires a range of monitoring and enforcement actions on the part of my department. Deputy Speaker, I meet regularly with the recognized bodies and organizations across the spectrum of the taxi industry in order to avoid clashes and to encourage the implementation of systems which can produce higher levels of safety, greater efficiency, and better service for our commuters. The Premier referred to some of these developments in his address yesterday. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased to be able to report to this sitting about 3 very recent significant achievements in the public transport space. All have been made possible by ongoing interaction between my ministry and department and other spheres of government. I personally have met on a number of occasions with my national counterpart as well as the Executive Mayor of Cape Town in order to reach an understanding which could result in significant improvement to public transport to our hard-pressed commuters. Briefly, these 3 areas are as follows, Deputy Speaker. 1, with regard to commuter rail, since the appointment of the PRASA administrator, there have been a number of constructive meetings with PRASA and this province concerning the re-establishment of safe, reliable, and suitable rail service on the central line. Because it is very, very important, Deputy Speaker, that to put politics aside so that the national government, the provincial government, and the city of Cape Town can work together for the benefit of the commuters of this province, as far as rail is concerned. This working relationship is aimed at ensuring, Deputy Speaker, that the amount of 1.4 billion rands announced by the President is in fact converted into operational and rolling stock improvement and a restored service. Very positive indicators have emerged from these meetings on a workable plan that will need to be jointly implemented. Secondly, on the 11th of February, it was possible to announce to over 13,000 commuters using the Go George bus service to roll out in March of phase 4 of this important public transport initiative. This rollout had been blocked as a result of disagreements between local minibus taxi industry. Here too, Deputy Speaker, has been close cooperation between the province and the National Department of Transport. And the third one, at the request of various players involved, my department has played a role in bringing together the City of Cape Town and other contracting parties in the N2 Express service. And we're very much aware, Deputy Speaker, of the pressure that is felt by the people of Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain and the speed with which we need to move to reinstate this route. Within the last few days, agreement has been reached on the appointment
Your time
of the
is up. If you
facilitator.
can finish off, Minister.
Within the last few days, Deputy Speaker, agreement has been reached on the appointment of the facilitator. We'll take the process forward. And that also is also good news so that we can reinstate this route.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognise the Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Let me welcome this morning our councillors from Mitchell's Plain and the sub-council chairpersons that are joining us this morning. Thank you for your presence. We know that you are the ones doing the groundwork in bringing service delivery to our people, so thank you very much. Honourable Speaker, the State of the Province address delivered by Premier Windy yesterday was indeed one that reaffirmed the dedication to the residents of Mitchell's Plain and the Western Cape and our commitment to build for every individual to determine their destinies and strive for success. Last year, voters of Mitchell's Plain gave us a fresh mandate under the leadership of Premier Windy. This government has achieved in the Western Cape what the ANC can only dream of in the last 7 months. With a persistent lack of support from the national ANC government, the DA-led government consistently continued to implement groundbreaking plans of action despite the lack of support from the ANC. Member Dagmore earlier on talked about AXA, but Member Dagmore, we invited, and the chairperson Deirdre Bartman invited AXA to Parliament. And they presented comprehensive plans, what we're going to do on Swartklip side. And many of the councillors were at the meeting. And as we see this morning, half your colleagues are absent. So at those meetings, at AXA, with AXA, your councillors was also absent, as it clearly indicated when we started. Only 26% of your MPLs was present. And that the people of Mitchell's Plain should take note of that. It's very serious. Because all of our MPLs are here, all of our councillors are here, the ANCs are absent, the ANC MPLs wasn't present, and they earn R1 million a year. So when we go to elections in 2021, the people of Mitchell's Plain must notice how little the ANC care about
members.
them.
Order.
Honourable Speaker, in the year 2001, former President Thabo Mbeki introduced the Urban Renewal Strategy. And he made a promise to the people of Mitchell's Plain by their useless mayor, then ANC mayor, who ironically is now appointed as the ambassador of the US. And Honorable Khalid, we all know that Premier or the former ambassador Rasool did great work in restoring relations with America. And I can only imagine the chaos and destruction the new ambassador is going to take on in America like she did when she was mayor of this town. Honourable members, we know whatever the ANC says translates into nothing. It doesn't even translate into action. Yesterday they were supposed to mobilize people in Mitchell's Plain. I think they're the handful mense here. A community as big as Mitchell's Plain. They could only pitch, I think there were 15, 20 people. That's how little the support they have, because the people of Mitchell's Plain know they don't deliver. Irrelevant, thank you. The irrelevant, thank you, Minister Frizz. You see, unlike the ANC, the DA actually has a plan, and we want to welcome Honourable Premier. The Western Cape Safety Plan delivered, because the subs is not delivered, and not our honestly good men and women in Mitchell's Plain. Thank you for being here, Brigadier. That work hard every day. On a political level and at a higher level, we all know subs is completely destroyed under the ANC-led government. This government actually delivered, and I want to thank the Premier for the Premier's Advancement of Youth project, of which we received 8,000 applications, of which 1,100 people will be employed. And many of those youth are here today. Robin, where are you and your crew? Can you stand up quickly? So members of this House can see the youth of Mitchell's Plain are benefiting from this program. And starting on Monday, Member Darkmore, 100 youth from Mitchell's Plain will partake in a youth development program where we'll take youth on a 3-day program and those youth are away from drugs, gangsterism, and substance abuse. And those are, out of the 99 Member Dagmar that participated last year, 107, was a 99% success rate, Honourable Speaker. 99. So of that youth, none of them are in drugs, alcohol, gangsterism, and 77 of them are currently working at schools as safety ambassadors. And those are what we're doing.
I know I can't tell you to take your seat. If you can just move back. I recognise you, Honourable Sayed.
Speaker, on a point of order, and I'm raising it because it's just at the start of the debate. We don't want to set a precedent. The Honourable Mackenzie must address you, as the Speaker, not address the Honourable Leader of the Opposition
Absolutely
directly.
noted. Thank you very much, Honourable Sayed. If you can address me. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
You broke my concentration, but anyway. Honourable Speaker, we also want to welcome the Western Cape Children's Commissioner. And Member Dagmar always referred to the last 10 years, but he failed to tell the people of Mitchell's Plain, when they were in power, they failed to deliver it.
The Western Cape initiated the process in the last, and I was proud to be part of that process, that we're going to be the first Children's Commissioner in the Western Cape, and chaired by Member Gillian Bosman, and thank you, Member Bosman. Not only the first for the Western Cape, the first for the country, the first in Africa, and that will contribute in dealing with some of the challenges in our community. This jobs premier, Honourable Deputy Speaker, consistently reduce red tape to create jobs. Last year we had a challenge with the Mitchell's Plain fibre. And I remember Sunday night when the Premier made contact with me, we need to sort out, there was a bit of an issue with the fibre, and through my interaction with the councillors late Sunday night, our MACO members from the City of Cape Town, Monday afternoon we met with our members. I'll just finish the sentence.
Finish your sentence.
Monday afternoon we met with our members and the City of Cape Town councillors, and fibres has continued because of the intervention with this Premier. Because when we in Mitchell's Plain, Deputy Speaker, ons hang nie slange nie, ons vang krokodille. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognise the Honourable Member, Claire Koch from the EFF. Order, please. Can we give him some time?
Thank you very much.
1 minute. Honourable Member, if you can just step aside. I recognise you, Honourable Lecker. Just put your mic up. I can't hear you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would like to make a humble plea that the guests that is here do not participate in any activity that is taking place here.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lecker. I've again reiterate Rule 6. I've also heard some cell phones ringing. Please, if you are going to leave your phones on, they have to be on silent. Otherwise, we will unfortunately ask you to leave the parliamentary precincts because it is an interruption for our members speaking. Thank you very much. I'll ask your indulgence. You may proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Premier, the Deputy Chairperson of the EFF in the Western Cape, Honourable Makamba Boja, distinguished leadership and members of the EFF present today, members of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature and staff, respected members of the public. It is with great honor and privilege for me to stand before you today and on behalf of the economic freedom fighters and respond to the state of the province addressed by the Honourable Premier. But before I do so, let me earnestly also join calls in terms of extending our sincere, deepest condolences for the passing on of the 8-year-old Tasneem, the basic services you've made in 2019. In terms of unemployment, Mr. Premier, the sad case reality is that the province's unemployment remain, and the people here remain poor. The households are without breadwinners, of which that's what you promised last year, that you will make sure that there is a breadwinner in each and every household. In terms of the statistics, they show that in the last quarter of, third quarter of 2019, the expanded unemployment rate in the province stood at around 24.5%, while youth unemployment at the fourth quarter currently stands at 26.2%. When you mentioned the 24,000 new jobs that you created in the past 7 months, you omitted to outline that the very same job losses that happened in the very same period. You failed dismally to tell us how many people lost their jobs under your stewardship. Mr. Premier, you further omitted to mention your government's department's spending without filling the top management posts. And with the guise and hiding behind the excuse that you do not find suitable candidates. That is the report of last year. And yet you claim that you have created jobs. The number of jobs that we are bragging about here, they are predominantly unsustainable, casual and contract jobs that you and your government are bragging about in terms of internship and unsustainable jobs, is such as call centers that we were bragging about here yesterday, that our people are working as call center agents. Transport. In terms of transport, indeed, there is a serious transport and a dysfunctional challenge, especially when it comes to trains. But you have got a very serious challenge that even the one that is under your stewardship, because I know very much you are going to shift the blame and move the goalpost and blame the national government, which is what you do normally best. And then you will fail dismally to explain to us as to what is your government provincially doing in terms of making sure that the taxi and the bus service, in terms of infrastructure, how do they become functional. In terms of human settlement, Mr. Premier, the issue of land and shelter is an issue that is non-negotiable. We are going to take the land. We are going to amend the Section 25 of the Constitution. It's a reality that you need to wake up and smell the coffee together with your disciples next to you. In terms of all these areas that you have highlighted, that you will bring our people closer to the cities last year, you came here with excuses of people that are occupying those areas. And yet you come with no proper solution, practical one, as to what are you going to do to ensure that you bring our people closer to the cities, instead of pushing them to the outskirts of the metro. In terms of safety, furthermore, Mr. Premier, safety is a very paramount sphere in terms of our province. There is serious war waged against our people, and our people are losing lives on a daily basis. And then this needs no politicking, but a collective approach in terms of seeing to it that our people become safe.
1 minute. Sorry. Can you just put that on pause? I'm hearing a telephone ringing, and I'm also hearing some interjections. Can we please have your cell phones and mobile phones switched off? And I also heard some interjections on this side. I'm going to ask our staff to actually look at that, and if that persists, I'll have to ask you to leave. My apologies, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much. In terms of education, you have a serious crisis of education. We have dropped from the ranks national to number 4. There, exactly. Let's go to the Y that you are looking for, together with your MEC of Education over there, whom you claim that the reason behind all this, it is the migration of people from the Eastern Cape. That is a very good assessment that is made by the DA, which is definitely a clear identity of who you are. You are, together with your predecessor, Helen Zille, who have seen that people who move from Eastern Cape and come here become refugees, and they must be labeled all sorts of foolish, funny names. And behind that is your quest to ensure that you establish a stigma towards black people that are coming from the Eastern Cape. You are not different from de Klerk and everybody else who see black people as zwart gevaar, a direct danger to the economy and everything else that is happening in the Western Cape. Can I continue?
Yes, you may.
Yes. You are not managing any time. There's only one speaker here. Don't be excited. So in terms of how we are doing things, the kind of manipulation that you are putting to the voters of the Western Cape, it is an insult and a spit in the face of the man just next to you, whose origin is in the Eastern Cape, just like the speaker who is presiding over this house, who come here, who are a direct threat to you and your organization in terms of being here. So as the EFF, we are saying it categorically clear that you need to stop from your racist quest that is manifest as a solution of some sort in the Western Cape, that it is not a solution whatsoever, because you are creating hatred among the indigenous people of the Western Cape. Thank you very much, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognize the Honourable Kama.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, the Premier, MECs, and members of the Provincial Parliament. You know, I I don't blame you, Premier, for continuously coming to this house, making promises and not being held accountable. Because the chair of the committee that is supposed to hold you accountable stood here in front of the people of the Western Cape and exposed himself that he can't even calculate what is a half. The ANC has 12 members in this parliament and 11 of them are present. But he says less than a half are not present.
Order.
Deputy Speaker, even though I don't agree with the DA's endless attempts to steal the ANC struggle
Order.
credential.
Okay, order. Honourable Kama, at best you start your speech so that you have enough time. Can we have some order in the House, please?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Even though I don't agree with the DA's endless attempts to steal the ANC struggle credentials, I must, however, thank you on behalf of the Mitchells Plain people for bringing us to this revolutionary place today, the home of the UDF. I had, however, hoped that majority of the guests will be veterans who were present during the historical launch of the UDF in 1983, as well as the Mitchells Plain residents. What was the point of bringing this SOPA to here if the people are not given an opportunity to be part of this occasion and raise their challenges to the Premier? For God's sake, we have spent 2 million to be here today. Or were you afraid that people would remind you about the goal of the UDF, which was to establish a non-racial united South Africa in which segregation is abolished and in which society is freed from institutional and systematic racism? For as long as things remain this way in the province, the UDF members, even those who have crossed over to the nets, should be reminded that the UDF unites, apartheid divides. A constant feature of the DA rule in the province is in the past decade has been in strained relationship with SAPS. Even though the Premier spoke at length about the good relations he has forged with the Provincial Commissioner, this has not yet translated into action. The Premier is still forging ahead with the intergovernmental dispute against Minister Cele. The Premier has failed to reprimand the Department of Community Safety on their half-baked research into detective services which was aimed at attacking SAPS. We urge the Premier to show his commitment to support SAPS in action, as a strengthened relationship between the two institutions will be of benefit to the people of the Western Cape. The disinformation that Western Cape is allocated fewer police resources and thus unfairly treated was repeated again yesterday. This deliberate mistruth has been clarified a million times. While the establishment has not responded to the growing population across all provinces, our province still maintains a better police to population ratio as compared to other provinces. To put this matter to rest, which is what the DA does not want to talk about, SAPS must speedily address the skewed allocation of police resources in the province and set targets to complete equitable distribution. We are of the view that more police resources must be taken away from leafy suburbs, which are even more protected by private securities, and be deployed to Mitchells Plain and the Cape Flats, where residents are anguished by gangs on a daily basis. The courts have already ruled on this. It is now our role to support the police commissioner to act accordingly. Deputy Speaker, we welcome the commitment that safety will be the #1 priority of the province, and I want to use these remaining minutes to talk about the Premier's safety plan. Although as a standing committee on community safety, we are yet to be presented or briefed about this plan or even see the plan, we have opted to be more proactive than simply complain. And we wonder whether the DA really takes the fight against crime serious in the Western Cape when even the chair of the committee is not part of the speaker's list, when safety is #1 priority in the province. The ANC's view is that if implemented correctly, it can go a long way into aiding the work of SAPS to address safety challenges in the province. Whilst we cautiously welcome the deployment of additional boots on the ground, we want these officers to fall under the command of SAPS, including their deployments, as the Premier also yesterday assured us. We hope the Premier was being genuine when he said these officers will be under the command of SAPS, and we should be taken into confidence with their training they received and their competence, not only to hold guns, but to protect the people of the Western Cape. The plan recognizes apartheid's spatial legacy, inequality, unemployment, poverty as some of the contributing factors to crime and violence. Yet there is no plan and budget to address them. As the ANC, we demand immediate plans to address this. Every safety plan should have communities in the center of things. For this reason, as the ANC, we propose a pilot project for street committees to act as safety officers in their respective areas. Through the more than 1 billion rand budget, the government should be able to support these street committees. These volunteers will ensure safety of not only of members of that community, but teachers and learners that are targeted daily by gun-wielding criminals. Deputy Speaker, not all neighborhood watch structures are applying for accreditation from dogs. You hardly have unemployed volunteers in disadvantaged socio-economic areas that apply versus those in affluent areas. It is a fact that dogs has put in place a tedious process to apply for a neighborhood watch accreditation. The very same dogs continues to encourage and divide neighborhood watch structures between those that are accredited and those that are not. The same with the EPP program for the CPFs. Dogs must give evidence of how the likes of Delft, Kylie, Chanyanga, Mitchell's Plain, and Philippi areas compare with the other areas and rural areas where they are not really crime hotspots. Local government, Deputy Speaker, is obliged by Constitution, the Constitution of the Republic in Section 152(1)(d) to promote a safe and healthy environment. Through the MEC of local government, we should encourage municipalities to adopt safety of their communities as their #1 priority and should be a major feature in their IDPs. In closing, Speaker, the Premier did not say a word about the incident where a law enforcement officer murdered an on-duty undercover officer who was pursuing a wanted criminal. That incident on its own raised many questions about the competence of these law enforcement officers. It is such incidents that makes us to have reservations on the Premier's obsession with boots on the ground. We would once again wish to take this opportunity to send our deepest condolences to the family of Constable Thando Singh. Lastly, gender-based violence and femicides remain one of the evils that our society is confronted with. The situation that the Van Wyks find themselves as they have lost their beautiful daughter at the hands of another man calls on us to double our efforts to end this pandemic. We congratulate SAPS on the work that they have done diligently to make sure that the perpetrator of this violence is arrested. And thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member Kama. I now recognise Honourable Burdell. Minister Burdell.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Premier Wendy, Cabinet colleagues, members of the Provincial Legislature, Director General, our heads of department, officials, colleagues, partners, residents of the Western Cape, media, present, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. People forget that the Western Cape was once run by the ANC. I got into office 10 years ago after the people of the Western Cape had decided to kick out the ANC because of their continued broken promises, corruption, and lack of service delivery. When I joined the Western Cape government in 2009, I found that not 1 out of 30 municipalities in this province had a clean audit. The provincial government responsible for local government functions was in complete disarray, and this chaos impacted negatively on the ability of our municipalities to deliver even the most basic services. Fast forward to 2018, and the DA-run provincial government managed to deliver 12 out of 30 municipalities with clean audits. In addition, and including the 12 municipalities mentioned, a total of 26 out of the 30 municipalities received unqualified audits, which is still a significant achievement if compared to the previous years and to national benchmark. Agbare Speaker, nasionale verslae wat kyk na dienslewering in ons munisipaliteite landwyd. Hierdie nasionale regering wat deur die ANC beheer word, stel hierdie verslae op. Elke verslag, of dit nou die Ouditeur-Generaal, Statistiek Suid-Afrika of enige ander onafhanklike entiteit is, het een ding in gemeen. Daar is een ding deurlopend. Die DA regeer beter as enige ander party. Daar is nie 'n munisipaliteit in die land wat beter regeer as die DA nie. Ons rekord van lewering van basiese dienste aan die armste van die armste is een waarop ek trots is. 2 voorbeelde, agbare Speaker. Die mees onlangse algemene huishoudingssensus wat deur Stats Suid-Afrika uitgevoer is, het aangedui dat 93% van ons huishoudings in hierdie Weskaap het spoeltoilette. 93,1%. Nagenoeg 4000 skole reg oor Suid-Afrika, met uitsondering van die Weskaap, sit na 25 jaar van demokratiese regering onder die ANC vandag met pittoilette. Nie een enkele skool in die Weskaap het 'n pittoilet nie, agbare Speaker. Die onlangse water en sanitasie meesterplan van die nasionale minister van water en sanitasie het gevind dat meer as die helfte van die rioolwerke van hierdie land wanfunksioneel is en of heeltemal buite werking. In die Weskaap voldoen 83% van al ons rioolwerke aan die minimum vereistes. Ek kan aangaan, maar kom, ek stel 'n uitdaging aan die ANC en aan die lede van hierdie huis. Ek vra u om 'n lys saam te stel van die 10 top of selfs 20 top munisipaliteite in die land. Gaan dan vanaand en kyk wie beheer daardie munisipaliteite. Honorable Speaker, the people of the Western Cape are no fools. They know when the government cares for them and values them and sees them as important and not worthless voting fodder. No wonder that the DA won a 2/3 majority in the city of Cape Town, as well as growing support in all areas in this province. The DA won an outright majority in 21 out of 30 municipalities in the Western Cape. The councils where the DA did not win an outright majority, Honourable Premier, well, let's leave it to the members to determine how those councils perform. As Minister, I'm responsible for every citizen in this province, whether they vote DA or not, and my actions are open for scrutiny without fear or favour. My actions confirm that even in DA-run councils, I have not hesitated to designate independent investigators to look into allegations of fraud, corruption and maladministration. Honourable Speaker, when it comes to the George municipality, for example, the record shows that I immediately ensure that the Hawks received these reports of alleged fraud and corruption activities, which resulted in the raid by the Hawks, regardless of the fact that 2 days later there was a by-election in that municipality. And you call me biased, please. If it must be noted that not me nor the DA undertaking these investigations, but rather specialized independent investigators whose reporting containing findings and recommendations are handed to the affected councils for action. I have adopted a zero-tolerance approach towards corruption and fraud and have stated repeatedly, if your hands are in the till, I will not hesitate to slam shut regardless of the color of your T-shirt. I challenge the ANC to show me a single council where they are in control, where this has been the case in the Western Cape. In the fact, the opposite, Honourable Premier, the opposite. This was evident in the recent opening of the National Parliament when the disgraced former eThekwini mayor was an honourable guest in the benches of the ANC. They reward corruption. There are many other examples, but Honourable Premier, let's just look at and ask.
Order.
Let's just ask Judge Zondo, who is chairing the Commission of Inquiry into the state capture that is daily recounting how the ANC-led councils and parastatals have been looted and stealing the future of our children, the future of the children of Mitchell's Plain. If the ANC stop looting and stealing, there will be money to build more schools in Mitchell's Plain. There will be money to build more hospitals. There will be money to fix our infrastructure. So, Honourable Dartmoor, it's all on the ANC. Similarly, in George, municipality, where despite of the recent forensic
Order.
investigation into leadership in the council, the ANC still supported the implicated people. Why? In whose interest is the ANC acting? It's definitely not in the interest of the people. I want to take a moment to touch on the issue of alleged double standards between the treatment of the Mayor of George and the Mako member. This is a favorite bugbear of the Good Party, to whom continually I claim that no action was taken against the councillor. Again, as my office has been in pains repeatedly point out, the matter was sent directly to the Hawks when it came to my attention in 2018. Seriously, please just do your research. My position is clear. My responsibility is to serve the people of the Western Cape in every community, regardless of whom is in charge. Agbare Speaker, as dit kom by die ANC in die Weskaap, die party het die afgelope paar jare legio van leierskapskandale. Ek hoef nie eers die name te noem nie, maar die ANC in die Weskaap is in totale gemors. Daar is nie eers op die oomblik 'n permanente leier nie. Hulle dien deur interim leiers. Die situasie is so ernstig dat die president verlede jaar na die verkiesing nie eers vir die eerste keer in die geskiedenis nie 'n enkele ANC-lid van die Weskaap in sy kabinet aangestel het nie. As dit nie was vir die aanstelling van die leier van die Good Party as minister nie, was daar nie een persoon van die Weskaap in die kabinet nie. Is dit nie 'n skande nie, agbare Deputy Speaker? Is dit nie 'n aanduiding van wat die ANC dink en wat hulle voel vir die Weskaap nie? Die ANC vandag het ons al lankal uitverkoop, agbare Deputy Speaker. Alwaarin die ANC se leiers belangstel, is wat hulle en hulle vriende en families kan kry. Hulle wil net skep, agbare Speaker. Vir die res van ons voel hulle vere. Vir die arme mense van Mitchellsplein voel hulle vere. Vandag, 25 jaar na demokrasie, staan distrik 6 nog leeg omdat die nasionale ANC-regering in beheer is. Hulle weier om aksie te neem. Hulle weier om ons mense se waardigheid te herstel. Die premier in hierdie provinsie het op verskeie kere gevra, gee vir die stad en die provinsie die mandaat en ons sal die mense herstel, hulle waardigheid herstel, hulle terugbring stad toe binne 5 jaar. Dis 'n skande en die skande is op die ANC, agbare Speaker. Agbare Speaker, ek kan net afsluit met 'n belofte. Hierdie Weskaap-regering is 'n regering vir al die mense van die Weskaap en ons is vasbeslote om 'n verskil te maak in die lewens van die mense in die Weskaap. Ons is vasbeslote om ten spyte van die ANC se inmenging en kriminaliteit aan te hou bou. Ons sal aanhou bou en aanhou geleenthede skep vir die mense van die Weskaap. Die rede is eenvoudig, agbare Speaker. Die mense van die Weskaap het 'n waarde vir hierdie DA-regering. Hulle is ons mense, agbare Speaker. Ons ag hulle, agbare Speaker, en ons dien hulle met 'n passie, agbare Speaker. Ek dank u.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I recognise the Honourable Member Heron. Order, please.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Order.
Let me start by reminding the Honourable Burdell that it was his own national party that created apartheid, created Mitchell's Plain, and the reason we're here is because his own national party forced people from District 6 to Mitchell's Plain and left them here. Let me also say to the Honourable Burdell
Order.
that we know that there has been charges laid against George Councillor Stag Cronje. But the DA took action against Nike, but the DA as a party have not taken action against Cronje. You have not suspended him, you have not asked him to resign, and I want to know, did you benefit from the referral fee that Cronje's son got from Old Mutual? Deputy Speaker.
Order.
Last year, the Minister of Finance brought an allo to the National Assembly, and our own Minister of Finance brought a spec poem to our Parliament. Deputy Speaker, this is a protea.
Sorry.
An icon of...
On 1 minute,
Point of
Honourable Member, if
order.
you can just step aside. What is your point of order, Honourable Minister?
I think the honourable member was casting an aspersion on the MSc.
Honourable Members, can I please listen to the point of order? Honourable Lily, I'm the chair. You're the member. Thank you.
Asked whether, I don't know, perhaps I heard wrongly, but I think he asked whether the MSc benefited from from the transfer of the funds. I just want to check.
I will revert to Hansard if it was an accusation, rather a question.
Deputy
You may
Speaker-
proceed.
Deputy Speaker, I can clarify. I asked if the DA benefited.
Noted.
So this is a protea, the icon of the Western Cape fynbos. The protea is named after the god Proteus, and Proteus apparently could see into the future, and he told the truth about it. But we don't need a Greek god, Deputy Speaker, to tell us about the future. The world's scientists are already telling us what is happening in the future. Our future is a changed climate, and we're running out of time to avoid the worst impacts of it. Everyone here knows this too. We lived through and survived a drought that in a normal climate would have been a 1 in 3,000 year drought. But we no longer have a normal climate, and we'll probably see worse droughts in our own lifetime. What can we do to stop it, Deputy Speaker? Well, climate change is caused by carbon emissions. During the SOPA, I was hoping to hear a plan on how we're going to reduce carbon emissions. We have the highest biodiversity of any region in the world, and this province has a duty to lead the way. But because of development and climate change, thousands of species are at risk, including this protea and its 460 million rand a year industry. Protecting the environment, the air we breathe, the water we drink is the responsibility of all of us, and government must lead the way. What I wanted to hear the Premier say is this. One, that the province will get to work on fixing public transport. No meetings, engagements, facilitators, blah, 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 blah. This means not protecting the useless leadership in the City of Cape Town that stopped the My City service to Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain in June last year and have been unable or unwilling to restore it. It means not wasting time visiting empty train stations. Action means working with Metro Rail, PRASA, SAPS, Metro Police to start trains and stop the metal chop shops. We cannot accept, Deputy Speaker, that in September we will get a limited service of a train every 30 minutes that only goes as far as Philippi. That is not good enough. Public transport is better for the planet, for the economy, and for our commuters' pockets. Two, Deputy Speaker, every town and city must plan for inward growth with well-located affordable housing. This means the province will have to identify well-located public land for affordable housing, regardless of what Patricia de Lille and the national government does. Stopping urban sprawl means we can protect farmlands, reduce travel distances, reduce traffic congestion, and carbon emissions. Three, we must prepare for the new energy economy. Patricia de Lille took the Minister for Energy to court in 2016. She did this to fight for the right of municipalities to procure electricity themselves. She knew she had to fight for safer, cheaper electricity. No mayor before and no mayor since has done it, and I know the DA likes to claim this as their work, but they are clinging to her coattails because an original thought never entered their heads. Deputy Speaker, I wanted to hear a plan from the Premier. What the Premier presented yesterday was limp, trite, and unimaginative. We need a plan that ensures that renewable energy projects are developed in a way that benefits all our people, not just DA politically connected mayors and landowners throughout our province. We need to make sure that this new energy economy creates work for everybody. The opportunities are there. There's no plan to meet those opportunities. Deputy Speaker, why is it urgent? You can hear in my voice it's urgent. Climate change is already having a devastating impact on agriculture, water costs, fire risk, and our overall economy. In Mitchell's Plain, a resident had a heart attack when she received a 60,000 rand water bill from the City of Cape Town. Your city government is sitting on billions of cash reserves, fleeced through high water costs from families like those living in Mitchell's Plain. Our farms are experiencing lower crop yields and seeing massive job losses. Those impacts will make unemployment, poverty, inequality, hunger, disease, and social instability worse. I was hoping to hear a plan that would manage this. Instead, we got business as usual and a repeat of all the promises that were made last year. Every single one of them was made last year. Last year, the Premier promised to run a clean, ethical government. The lifestyle audits have not been done. Some of his MECs have been implicated in card deployment, theft of municipal services, and driving irregular, overpriced land purchases. and nothing has been done. The Premier says he's committed to spatial integration, but the DA leader in the province only buys the outermost land, worst located land for government housing, even though government house has land in better locations. The DA says they can't build affordable housing next to floodplains in Rondebosch, but hell, they can build affordable housing next to floodplains in Durbanbach.
Finish off your last sentence.
Speaker, we have less than 500 weeks to act. I call on all parties, all spheres of government, every person to acknowledge we are in a climate emergency and we must act with the speed the global crisis needs. I thank you.
You, Honourable Member. I recognize Honourable Philander. Order, please.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Premier, all guests present. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I think the previous speaker must just accept the fact that the Minister's job is to release land. We are not asking for special favours here, but that the national government abide by its constitutional obligations. We will then fulfill ours in respect of due process. Just accept and do.
Order.
Agbare adjunct Speaker.
Order.
As politici moet ons ten alle tye die feite aan ons gemeenskappe voorhou. Ons moet oopkop en eerlik wees oor wat ons beloof, wat moontlik is en wanneer dit gedoen kan word, Speaker. As ons as verkose leiers hier staan voor ons gemeenskappe, terwyl ons mekaar kritiseer as oppositiepartye, moet ons dapper genoeg wees om die verantwoordelikheid aan ons opgedra voor die korrekte deure te lê en nie mekaar te mislei omdat ons politieke punte wil inwin nie. Agbare adjunct Speaker, die staande komitee vir opvoeding het 'n besoek gebring aan Dias Primêr in George en eerstehands waargeneem van wat nog gedoen moet word. By Cederhoor hier in Mitchells Plain het die prinsipale beroep gedoen op besighede en die behoefte uitgespreek vir ekstra opvoeders en hoe die skool die salarisrekening van ekstra opvoeders nie kan dra nie. Agbare adjunct Speaker, die oneweredige nasionale kwintielsisteem het tot gevolg dat onderwysers moet besluit watter kinders by die betrokke skool kan deelneem aan die voedingsskema op watter dag. Nou, hoe sê 'n juffrou vir 'n kind, vandag kan jy nie kos kry nie, terwyl sy weet dis die eerste en die enigste maaltyd wat daardie kind sal geniet. Adjunct Speaker, en terwyl ons by die Saldanha polisiestasie was en besoek afgelê het en verneem het dat oortreders geregtig is op 3 maaltye per dag. Hierdie agbare adjunct Speaker is wat fout is met ons land. Die nasionale regering maak beleide wat kinders minder gee as wat hulle oortreders gee. Die nasionale regering is onbekwaam en te arrogant om te wil weet of te wil verstaan wat die werklikheid van sake is in hierdie land van ons. Speaker, allow me to rectify the ANC misconception on equality and its link to the Democratic Alliance. Inequality is written into the proclaimed transformation policies by the ANC government and perpetuated to existence by the failure to eradicate corruption and to rather protect party interests, to the point where they are too occupied to see the challenges this poses to the delivery of the very basic services in our country. It is a vicious cycle that started with negative growth of the economy to a gutted state of education, justified by a heavy public wage bill, land appropriation without compensation, and failing SOEs. Agbare Speaker, ongeag die uitdagings, die konstante vermindering van die begroting, en ons weet in wie se sakke hierdie geld beland, het ons matrikulante 82.3% geslaag en 'n aansienlike verbetering getoon in wiskunde en tale in grade 3, 6 en 9. Agbare Speaker, in die Weskaap bestaan die wil om te doen, die wil om gemeenskappe te verbeter. As meneer Simmery, die prinsipaal van Weltevrede Hoërskool in Wellington, vir 'n aantal aande by die skool kon slaap om te verseker dat die skool nie geplunder word nie, as ons ouers hand aan die ploeg slaan, hoe kan ons nie doen wat ons veronderstel is om te doen nie? En ons sal nie ons gemeenskappe in die steek laat nie. Die DA-regering in die Weskaap het sedertdien 3 nuwe skole gebou en nie een van die 13 swak presterende skole in die land is in die Weskaap geleë nie. Ons doen ons bes met wat ons het. staan by ons die mense in die Weskaap. In die Weskaap staan ons nog 'n kans. Ons kinders staan nog 'n kans om die leer van sukses te klim. En wat ons in die Weskaap doen, kan ons in die res van die land doen. Ons kan Suid-Afrika regmaak. Staan by ons. Met ons geheel samelewingsbenadering, soos in die premier se provinsiale rede genoem gister, beteken dit nie omdat jy arm is, jy nie 'n kans het op ekonomiese geleenthede nie, kwaliteit onderrig en gesondheidsorg, en jy kan deel wees van 'n voorspoedige gemeenskap. Dis net in die Weskaap, agbare spreker, waar elke liewe departement hulle gewig ingegooi het teen geweld. Spreker, in die Weskaap werk ons hard saam vir almal. Dis die enigste provinsie waar die werkloosheidssyfer inderdaad krimp. Staan by ons. Spreker, ons is bevoeg en ons gemeenskappe, ons wil hulle dien. Spreker, ons mag nooit die ANC 'n kans gee om hier te mors, soos hulle opmors in die res van die land nie. Staan by ons hier in die Weskaap.
Finish off, honourable member.
Agbare spreker, daarom verwelkom ek die premier se provinsiale rede en in besonder is die verbintenis om elke moontlike hulpbron tot ons beskikking aan te wend tot voorspoedige ekonomiese groei en gemeenskappe wat floreer in vooruitgang.
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Sorry, did someone interject?
Yes.
Speaker,
I
I think
recognize
you
you. Yes,
are,
Honourable
you are very biased. That member's time was up long time ago. That
Yes,
5
I've
minutes
just said
was
her time
over.
was up. I've actually given everybody an opportunity to finish their sentence, and that has been across all parties. Thank you very much. I recognize the Honourable Barnes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In a diverse province like the Western Cape, one would really expect in the speech of a premier to hear cultural affairs being mentioned, because cultural affairs and sports is the department that brings people together. Maar niet de manier, ons gaan voort, alles die omstandighede soos het is, ons gaan nie moe geraak nie. Die betreurenswaardige sporttoneel soos hier in Mitchells Plain is 'n bewys van 'n groeiende ongelykheid en apartheidsbeplanning. Ons mense word afgeskeep. Die meeste dinge wat hierdie elitistiese regering in die Weskaap vir armes doen, is blote skynsdiens en te min. Die departement van mense nader aan mekaar moet bring, kry te min en doen minder om eenheid te bevorder. Soos sy doelwit is, geleenthede gaan maar verby en ons almal weet daarvan. Veral in arme gebiede moet groot werk gedoen word. Speaker, kyk na die geriewe in Mitchells Plain en elders en sien hierdie departement is aan die slaap en sommer baie vas aan die slaap. Die departement mag sê alles is nie in sy taak nie, maar hy behoort 'n groter rol te speel om kultuur en kuns te bevorder. Hy kan ook help om koste en huur van geriewe laag te hou of te betaal. Nou word sport net vir politieke punte te begryp. Dat is die reg. Dat is nou 'n skande. Gemeet aan ander plekke in boomryke buurtes met dik perke waar gras beter as mense versorg word. Constantia, Khayelitsha groot verskil. As Mitchells Plain en ander agterblewe gebiede 'n woesterny. Jy kan dit sommer ooglopend sien. Die jammerlike toestande wat in ons woonplekke heers, wys te min is gedoen om werklik 'n verskil te maak. Met afskeepbegroting daarby gaan dit R10 miljoen kos om gelykheid en reg daar te laat geskied. Ek was geskok onlangs, Honourable Mitchell, toe ene Eddie moes hoor wat sy been in rugby gebreek het, omdat hy in die afgeskeepte voorstede oor 'n ongelyk geval het. Hierdie soort van onervaarde sandputte en grysperke is alledaags gesig en ook in gebiede van die Karoo en ook in die Oeverberg, jy kan dit in Boland ook sien. Dit is ook te duur vir tale en ver om te ry om deel te neem. Op 'n ander geleentheid sal ek verduidelik hoe moeilik is om in die plattelande deel te neem aan sport. Dit is 'n baie moeilike taak en 'n duur taak. Provinciale departement moet meer doen om sake te koördineer met die plaaslike en nasionale regering en nie 'n eiland wees op hulle eie nie.
Veral die afskeep van inheemse en gemeenskapssport is 'n skreeuende skande. Met die verdere verpligting om naskoolprogramme met sport aan te bied, moet die departement dit laat slaag in die belang van ons leerders wat uitval, swanger tieners of dwelm en alkoholmisbruik te hok aan slaan. Let wel, Speaker, ons mag Chester Williams verloor het, maar dit is nie die einde nie. Daar's baie spelers in die plattelande, in ons gemeenskappe wat ons vanaf kom. Wat doen ons om hulle potensiaal uit te bring? Ons het Lundim Senge van Swellendam, Gilroy Philander van Parel, hulle staans in die EWK-liga in Parel. The Black Pearl is alive in them. Potensiaal is aan die pad, maar ons doen niks om my potensiaal op te bring. Sport is een van die maatskaplike teenvoeters om gemeenskappe te hef, mense te vertel, die departement sleep voete en help net boelangs. Dit weet ons ook as net sekere plekke wat gehelp word. Partygeriewe is 'n skokkende toestand of staan flenters onbenut, veral waterpype, pompe en besproeiende rustings het baie aandag nodig. Kyk net hier, rond soos in Swartklip, Dolomites, Portlands, Lentegeer, West Ridge, Woodlands, Strandfontein en hier in Rocklands, hoe geriewe verval het. Wat het ons aan gedoen? Veiligheid moet ook verskerp word. Ons hoor net van die safety plan, ons het rondgestap op die stadiums, hier in Mitchells Plain in. Drade is af en niks aan gedoen nie. Waar is die safety plan aanstellings wat ons gedoen het van 500 persone, waar werk hulle? Te veel gebruik geriewe wat dit onder 'n groter druk en agteruitgang plaas. Te min gimnasiums is beskikbaar met te klein ruimtes en uitgediende toerusting. Openlig geriewe word politiek bemark, maar die weer met wind, reën en sonbrand as ook die wegwys van jong mense is 'n groot probleem. Tale is dit ontoeganklik vir mense met spesiale behoeftes en ook as vroue. Dit is onvergeefbaar. Dit is baie onvergeefbaar dat die departement nie ingetree het toe die golfbaan in Khayelitsha voorkoop is aan Golden Arrow vir 'n busstaanplek. Ons almal weet, as ons ontspanningplekke wegneem en busse daar laat staan, dis waar die kriminele rekorde begin. Dit is 'n skande. Die sogenaamde bevordering van sport en ontspanning word te min gedoen om Weskaap sport in die agterblewige gebiede aan te moedig. Die agterblewige gebiede bly maar net agter, kinders speel nog steeds met plastiekbolle, daar is nie 'n verskil nie. Die departement sal moet homself natuurlik op die rug klop, maar die vraag bly, is dit genoeg om net die minimum te doen? Ek dink nie so nie. Waar nie ingemeng word nie, het hierdie departement al ingedons soos in Bolandse atletieksaake. Die minister moet vertel wat sy baie meer vir kuns, kultuur en sport gaan doen. As die ANC versoek om Rocklands 'n nasionale erfenis.
Will you please wrap up?
Die minister moet vertel wat sy baie meer vir kuns, kultuur en sport gaan doen. En die ANC versoek steun om Rocklands 'n nasionale erfenisplek te verklaar. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I now recognize the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Mayor.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier and Cabinet colleagues, the Leader of the Official Opposition, our leaders of political parties present here today, and honourable members of the Western Cape Legislature, colleagues, friends, and citizens of the Western Cape, and more appropriately, citizens of Mitchells Plain. I want to acknowledge all our councillors from Mitchells Plain, our sub-council chairs. I also see Councillor Woodman, Councillor Mark Kleinsmith. I see my friend Fred David Arendse. I see Councillor Sumaya Talib, Archie Klaas, the Deputy Mayor of Oversburg Municipality. I see Councillor Sumaya Talib. Thank you for joining us here today. But I also see community leaders here of Mitchells Plain and our faith-based organization and our religious leaders. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for councillors from Drakenstein that is also here. And I also see Councillor Kleinsmith, and I also see Councillor Anda and many other councillors. Honourable Speaker, when Premier Windy
delivered his State of the Province address yesterday, he reminded us that when he took office, he committed his government to get to work. Honourable Speaker, and this is exactly what we have done. We got to work so that the people of this province can benefit. Honourable Speaker, Premier Windy is correct when he says, and I quote, "But we also know that the majority of people do not hunger after a life of crime. Our residents are hungry for opportunities. And there can be no such more of it in every community, in every town, in every region across our province if we get our approach right to economic growth," unquote. Honourable Speaker, agriculture plays a significant role in the economy of the Western Cape. It constitutes 10% of the GDP, 17% of the labour force. Despite the worst drought in 100 years, 4 billion rand direct investment in 2017. In the first 6 months of last year, 350 million rand investment in agriculture. But more importantly, Honourable Speaker and members of this House, we have seen 2018 agricultural value production of 43 billion rand. And in 2018, we have seen 21 billion rand income from agriculture. So agriculture is significant in this economy here in the Western Cape. Honourable Speaker, as highlighted by the Premier of the Western Cape, the economy can only grow to its full potential in a safe environment. And therefore, the Ministerial Rural Safety Committee, which I chair, is a subcommittee of this Cabinet to ensure that rural safety receives its strategic attention it deserves. A call for proposals is right now out, and we are looking forward to receiving input from the public how we can improve rural safety in the Western Cape. Furthermore, I intend to sharpen the rural safety by means of partnership, innovation, and technology and radio control systems. All agricultural role players have undertaken to work together to promote rural safety. Together, we can make a difference because we are better together. Safety is a key priority in the Western Cape. But Speaker, growing the economy and facilitating market access, which is my job, is now not only threatened by crime, but is now being threatened by a criminal state because they want to steal your property through expropriation without compensation. And the ANC did this because they saw the EFF is winning ground in the National Parliament and they have to give somebody something because they are fearing they're going to lose the election in 2024. And so we see the amendment of Section 25 has got absolutely nothing to do with land reform. It has everything to do with abdicating your responsibility because the EFF is blowing in their neck. They cannot even run a parliament. And so it permits expropriation without compensation at the whims of Parliament. Now, Parliament can't run itself. How can they give authority to decide the value of your property? They can't run Parliament. But let's hear what the President has to say about it. He says...
Honourable Minister, will you please take your seat? I recognize Honourable Syed. What's your point of order, sir?
No, Speaker, I want to know if the Honourable MEC is willing to take a question about the dispossession of land of our people in this country. That it was colonialism and apartheid.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you, Honourable Member. That's now a statement.
Our land was stolen. Is he willing to take a question on that matter?
Please take your seat, Honourable Member.
Honourable Speaker, I only take questions from intelligent members of this House. But Honourable Speaker, kom ons luister na wat sê die president oor die oneiening van grond. Die president sê oneiening van grond in Suid-Afrika sal ordelik geskied. Dis 'n paradoks. Jy kan nie mense so goed ordelik steel nie. Dis 'n paradoks. Maar wel kom ons kyk wat sê die graderingsagentskappe Moody's. Hulle sê hulle glo nie die president nie. Moody's het onlangs die landbank tot rommelstatus afgegradeer. Inwoners van Mitchellsplein, inwoners van die Weskaap, moet weet dat die nasionale regering tans beplan om jou eiendom, jou grond te oneien. In kort, die staat neem jou eiendom, maar volgens die landbank en die banksector gaan jy nog steeds verantwoordelik wees om te betaal want jy het 'n verband op jou lening. Soos Dr. Annelie Lotterie onlangs gesê het, die staat neem jou eiendom en jy moet nog steeds betaal. Daar is 'n term vir dit in kriminologie, agterbanker. Dit staan bekend as staatsdiefstal. Dit is diefstal wat deur die staat gepleeg word, want in Suid-Afrika het ons 'n kriminele staat. Wanneer jy eiendom soos grond besit, dan het jy die titelakte, maar die staat wil jou titelakte oorneem, dan sit jy in Mitchellsplein met jou skuld. Maar wanneer jy eiendom koop, moet jy 'n verband neem by 'n finansiële instelling. As die staat jou eiendom steel, is dit net logies dat jy nie meer jou verbandverpligtinge kan nakom nie. Dit beteken net een ding, die banksektor in Suid-Afrika gaan collapse. Dit gaan disintegreer. But it is more important to note the following. You will not only be able to face this crisis at your home, you will face this crisis at the bank. And Lily, when you go to the bank, this is what's going to happen.
Honorable Minister, let us please refer to honorable members as honorable members.
The honorable member Andile Lily, when the bank sector will collapse, like they have collapsed in Zimbabwe and in Venezuela, you will hear one morning on the national television that you cannot draw money from the ATM.
Honorable
the
Minister,
honorable member, you will now be able on one day, you will only be able to draw 100 rand per day. The next morning,
honorable
you can
Minister,
only draw...
will you please take your seat? Order, honorable members. Will you please take your seat, Honorable Syed? May we please switch off that mic, Honorable Van Vogel? It's in order, okay. Can we please get a seat somewhere here? I don't want the minister to run up and down. It seems he's getting many point of orders. So he's going to be tired by the time he finishes. I recognize you, Honorable Syed.
Speaker, with due respect, I think your authority in this particular sitting is being undermined by the MEC yet again. I raised the point of order earlier around Honorable Mackenzie, who gracefully listened to the ruling of the Deputy Speaker and did not refer to the member directly. But here we find the Honorable MEC yet again referring directly to Honorable Lily. Even when you say he must not, he continues to say you for Honorable Lily. Please call him into order, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Syed. Honorable Minister, will you please adhere to the rules of the House?
Honorable Speaker, I apologize. But the fact of the matter remains that in the expropriation of your land, the bank sector will collapse, and people of Mitchellsplein must know that when you go to the bank, they will tell you today you can only draw 100 rand because the bank system of the EFF and the ANC will collapse. This has happened in Zimbabwe. It has happened in Namibia, in many other countries, particularly in Venezuela. The next morning, honorable members, they will tell you today you can only draw 50 rand. The next day, they're going to tell you you can only draw 10 rand. And the next day, there's no money. This is what expropriation without compensation will mean in practical terms. And I think the people of Mitchellsplein understand the situation. They understand what happened in Zimbabwe. They understand what happened in Venezuela. This is what has happened in Venezuela. In 1999, they decided to expropriate land without compensation. In 2011, they effect the constitutional change. There was a lack of food security.
Speaker. Honorable Lily.
Speaker.
Please wait. Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat? What is your point of order, Honorable Member?
Speaker, I'm worried.
What rule is that?
I'm worried, Speaker. Wait a minute, Speaker. The Honorable Member seems to have a lot of cash in his boot, and he's displaying this money in the presence of many poor people of Mitchell's Plain.
Thank you. That's not a point of order. Please take your seat. Honorable members, we need to stick to the business of the day. Honorable Minister, I will give you 1 more minute to proceed. Your time is nearing up.
Honorable Speaker, there is an alternative for land reform. Because we believe in land reform, we believe in giving people title deeds, we believe that people must own their property, not rent the property from the state. We believe in sweating your assets. We believe in using your assets to build a foundation for your children. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in choice architecture. We believe in personal responsibility. And we believe in excellence. This is a declaration today here in Mitchell's Plain. Stop expropriation without compensation, or the people of Mitchell's Plain will stop you from stealing their land. But because the people of the Western Cape are peaceful, we ask you nicely, stop stealing people's property, stop destroying our country.
Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat?
Speaker, I'm rising because is it parliamentary for Honorable Kleighout to say that Honorable Minister Bredell stole the land?
All right. Let me just establish that. Honorable Minister, please take your seat. Honorable Kleighout, did you say what the Honorable Michelle says? Please stand up, Honorable Kleighout.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Did you say that?
No, yes, I said the National Party. When he was in the National Party, yes. Yeah. When he was in the National Party, during the Group Areas Act, yes.
Please remain standing, Honorable. Please rise there. Did you say that Honorable Bredell stole the land?
Yes, during the
Please
National
withdraw
Party.
that.
I withdraw.
Thank you. You know, political parties can still land, it's fine. But individuals, in terms of the House rules, we can't. We can't say that. Honorable Minister, please proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I conclude. We've made a declaration today here in Mitchell's Plain. But because the people of the Western Cape and the people of Mitchell's Plain are peaceful people, we ask you nicely, stop your plan to steal people's property, stop destroying our country, stop turning Parliament into a circus. Let us follow the Premier of the Western Cape, unite behind the shared vision.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat again? Honorable members, there's one presiding officer, so let us work together. I recognize Honorable Said. What's your point of order, Honorable Member?
Chair, the Honorable MEC is misleading the House. Which ANC member said that we must steal land? Who is stealing land here? Likewise, if he's accusing Honorable
That's
Keiko,
not a point of, that's not a point of order. Please take your seat.
Of saying that
Please
he's
take your
stealing
seat,
land,
Honorable
say,
Member.
who's stealing land
Will you
here?
please take your seat?
Herman Mashaba took land
Please
without
take your
compensation.
seat. Please take your seat. Let me provide the ruling on this matter. The manner in which the member is raising his argument, it's a point for debate. But the ANC still has speakers, so argue that. Let us not, either from the right or from the left, if you have a serious matter to raise, use your speakers to argue your point. So the rules say that. So you can only do it by a substantive motion if you want to do it in a more substantiated form. Now let us proceed. Honorable Minister.
Honorable members and members of the Mitchell's Plain community, when the ruling party wants to do something ugly, they give it nice names. Expropriation without compensation. It is pure theft. Finish and clear. There's another thing they call prescribed assets. People of Mitchells Plain must know prescribed assets means the ANC want to steal your pension. So they give nice names to steal your stuff. I want to conclude to say, let us unite. Let us unite. Stop turning
Thank you,
the
Honourable
National
Minister.
Parliament into a circus.
Your time is up now. Thank
Let
you.
us unite behind the Premier of the Western Cape.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Let me just say to the honourable members, the more we do what we do, it's going to extend the sitting. So it's at your pleasure. I'm at your pleasure. If you want a longer sitting, then give it to me. Let me recognize Honourable Minister, or Honourable Murray. Honourable Murray. No, he's got a family inside.
Speaker, Premier, honourable members, and people of the Western Cape. My mother tongue language is Afrikaans, Mr. Honourable Treko, but I pray that one day soon this Parliament will learn to respect it, even when we sing the national anthem. The Premier's speech was visionary, one which was meant to instill hope. But the province lacked the legal authority to implement it without central government's approval. That's a fact. Control over the deployment of the SAPs, the quality of social housing, education curriculums, school feedings, land reform, spatial planning, taxation are all the prerogative of the national and not provincial legislations. That's why even the trains are not running this morning. Let's face the truth. Provincial governments are mere administrative extensions of national government. What we need in the Western Cape is federal autonomy, whether we like it or not. Then and only then will we be able to implement our 5-year plan without budgetary constraints or constitutional constraints. Without devolved powers to provinces, they stand the risk of becoming mere burdens on South Africa's economy. Yesterday we observed a moment of silence for the death of Tasnie van Wyk, who was brutally and savagely murdered by a man released on early parole. You know what? Our liberal justice system is the real killer of this girl, because they give parole, early parole, to murderers and rapists. Speaker, last year during SOPA, I asked the Premier, are you prepared to call for an amendment to the Criminal Procedures Act 51 of 1977 to prevent early parole for murderers and rapists? And he answered me abruptly, no, I'm not. Premier, after what happened to Tasnie, do you still say no? The Western Cape's Constitution, Chapter 3, subsection 9, gives the Western Cape Parliament the right to recommend by resolution that the national government make such an amendment to any act which is outside our authority. Premier, if you want to implement all your lofty ideals, if you want to improve the quality of your education, if you want to build affordable, durable houses for poor people, deploy police to wherever we may decide in the Western Cape. If you want to make households energy self-sufficient, develop an own policy with regard to land redistribution, and if you want to reinstate, if the people want it, the death penalty, then we need to become a federal autonomous state. We need self-determination. The Freedom Front Plus want the state to start negotiations with us to implement Article 235 of the Constitution and give the Western Cape and other provinces the right to self-determination if they so seek it through a provincial referendum. We want a corruption-free federal state where Christian norms and values will be respected and all cultural and language rights are recognized as of equal importance. We seek a system of government where race will no more determine your value or your self-worth, but where all cultural minorities will be protected from domination by any major majority culture. We are currently closing many schools for lack of sufficient resources, which we claim are being withheld by national government. Thousands of children have still not been admitted to schools in especially colored and black areas. We have poorly trained police. We have no detectives that can investigate crime. And we are hamstrung by labor equity laws passed at national level. For us to succeed, Premier, and for the Western Cape to flourish as the jewel in Africa's crown, we need federal autonomy. Kom ons praat 'n bietjie baie meer plaaslik. Wat is ons plaaslike bekommernisse? Premier, ek word oorval. Die mense wat klagtes het, dat communique buitensporige huur vra aan arme mense. Ek het 'n vrou, mevrou Sylvia Mkombeneswa. Sy woon al 15 jaar in Ruiterwag. Sy verdien maar 1800 pensioen, maar hier is 2300 'n maand. En omdat sy nie kan betaal nie, is sy nou besig om allemaal uitsmyt.
Honorable Murray, thank you very much. Time is up.
Ek sal die volgende op Facebook sit. Baie dankie.
Honorable members, I now recognize Honorable Smith. Or before then, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. What's your point of order, sir?
I would just like to, on a point of order, ask if Member Murray was not misleading the House in regard to his reference to posting his speech on Facebook, because as I understand it, Mr. Murray is not very consistent and active on Facebook. I might have it wrong, but could he just clarify? Is he misleading the House?
Thank you, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Murray seemed to be objecting to that point of order.
Mr. Chairman, I must thank all the parties for their very deep interest in what I have to say.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. I now recognize Honorable Smith. Here, this side, sir. No, here. Okay, go to the Premier. Now, honorable members, we have witnessed a floor crossing.
Thank you, Speaker. No, this is not a floor crossing. I'm standing next to the Premier. I want the people of the province to see the response of the Premier on my speech. First of all, Now, Lady Pando,
Point of
MEC
order.
Bradell, is from the Western Cape and she's in cabinet. And also Ibrahim
Honorable Smith, will you please take your seat? I recognize the Chief Whip. Is that a point of
Thank
order,
you, Mr.
Chief Whip?
Speaker. Has the honourable member crossed the floor?
What the honorable member did, he crossed the line. So what we did, not the floor but the line, but that's the rules. We created the two places for members to speak so that you don't have to do that. Now, I'm just going to allow the member, is my ruling, to do that, but it's not going to be allowed going further. I don't want to set a precedence. He begged me nicely, so I will allow him to do so.
Speaker, if this is an issue, I can always go back. I don't want to.
No, proceed. You said you missed the premier,
Thank
so
you.
do that.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister Patel is also from the Western Cape, MEC Bradell. So just to correct that lie that you just spread earlier. I would forgive all those, after listening to the Premier's debate yesterday, would be mistaken into believing that we have a caring government that works for the people of the Western Cape.
There is another point of order. Sorry, Honorable Smith, will you please take
Honourable
your seat?
Speaker, I'm rising to ask, is it parliamentary for the honourable member to say that Honourable Bradell lied to the House?
Okay. Thank you, honorable members. There's one presiding officer. So, may I request to establish from the honorable member, did you say that the honorable minister lied?
I said the Honorable MEC lied based on the fact that the MEC said earlier.
Then, all right.
Sorry?
Wait, honorable members, this is the House of Parliament. There are rules. So the presiding officer has not asked for your assistance yet. Will you please withdraw that statement, honorable member? It's unparliamentary.
Let me withdraw and continue speaking.
Thank you very much.
As someone who works in local government space, the spear closest to the people, dat ek vandag die waarheid en die ware stand van plaaslike regering en munisipaliteite aan die deur gee. The Premier made a few remarks yesterday. He said, our goal is to govern with integrity. You can't be a government of integrity facing serious investigation by the public protector for violation of the member's ethics code. ANC members submitted a complaint to the public protector against MEC Bradell for allegations of interfering in staff-appointed loans to the value of 2.184 billion rand in the past decade, and has only repaid about 554 million in debt. Over 70 million rand worth of MIC funding was given back to the National Treasury by Drakenstein, not being spent just last week. Speaker, this money could have been used to build sports facilities in Drakenstein. This money could have been used to build roads in Drakenstein, but the municipality failed to spend this grant. We have to ask, what is the impact of this on service delivery? Cederberg was taken away from the DA in October last year, and guess what? There was only 36,000 rand in the running current account of the municipality after the 3 years of the DA. Matsikama municipality, who is now led by an ANC EFF coalition, is basically in the red after your government has stripped the municipality's funds. All of this happened under the watch of the MEC. If the Premier needs any convincing of the need to suspend the MEC, then the need only look at what has happened in George. There is evidence that the son
Honorable
of...
Smith, will you please take your seat?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker,
What's
I'm
your point
rising
of
on Rule 59, subsection 2, and I quote, any member who wishes to bring any improper or unethical conduct on the part of any member to the attention of this House may only do so by way of a substantive motion comprising of a clear, formulated and properly substantiated allegation. I please ask you to withdraw and caution the member to stop doing that.
Say, which statement?
Honorable member, will you please take your seat? The same rule, Honorable Mitchell, says no member may impute improper motives or reflect on the integrity or dignity of subsections 1C or verbally abuse the other member. And therefore gets to the point where you've read subsection 2 of section 59 of the rules. It is correct, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. I would like to request Honorable Smith that if you wish to make those allegations, no matter how true or false they are, you do that by means of substantive motion. Because what we have done can lead to a member being expelled from the cabinet, therefore losing his job. And if it is correct what you have said, it must be done properly in terms of the rules. And I will therefore request that you withdraw and continue with the debate. Thank you.
Speaker, it seems to me that
there are further points of order. I therefore wish to request that you take your seat, Honorable Member. I will start with the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I wish to address you on your ruling. My understanding, Speaker, is that there is a formal complaint registered at the Office of the Public Protector against MEC Bradell. And that complaint contains serious allegations about this particular MEC's conduct and the alleged breach of the Code of Conduct for Ethics. And that is why we have asked the Premier to suspend him. So surely that is a matter of the public domain, and references to those issues are part of the debate in this House. This is not personal. It's about the government in this province.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. Before I even recognize any other member, you're correct in what you are saying, that there's a matter of public interest. Of course, you may well be correct in saying that. But this particular Rule 59, subsection 2 specifically, to respond to your specific point that you've raised, says you may do so, but by means of a substantive motion. We don't have that motion here. Give me that motion, and it has not been tabled to the Speaker. So therefore, you may not do it here as a surprise, because it is not in line with the rules. Open the rule book and look at this specific rule, then we will work better together. So on that point, then I rule that we proceed and rule the statement that has made reference to the minister in that manner to be withdrawn and ruled out of order in this case. But then we proceed with the debate. Honorable Smith, I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. There is evidence that the son of the finance MMC in the municipality of George benefited millions through the investment of the municipality into Old Mutual. The DA's own investigation into the allegations of corruption in George swept this matter under the carpet.
Please take your seat.
Speaker, I apologize for rising and I ask you to indulge me. The Honourable Member has not withdrawn his statement and continued with his speech.
Thank you. Honorable Smith, will you please take the podium? All right. I have asked in my ruling that Honorable Smith withdraw that part, reference to the minister, and proceed with the debate, and you have not done so. Will you please withdraw that part?
Honorable Speaker, I did withdraw.
Okay.
I was interrupted by the
You withdrew?
Leader of Opposition.
Okay.
So I did withdraw.
Thank you. Can we now confirm that he did withdraw, so that I don't get
Honorable
another point
members
of
are
order?
intensively listening to me, I see.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Smith. Please proceed, sir.
Allegations of corruption in George was swept under the mat and under the carpet and used Mayor Naik as a scapegoat so you could be seen as taking action against corrupt officials. If it were George only, that would be bad enough and reason enough. However, there is also issues of underspending and overspend, where 22 million rand of MIC funding was taken back for not spending it. Funding that could have been spent on sport facilities in our communities and the upgrade of our roads. There are many examples of corruption, capture, cadre deployment, and racism in the DA-run municipalities. Premier, we want to hear from you. How are you going to deal with these challenges? The city of Cape Town, the supposed crown jewel of the DA good governance and the city that works for all, has failed the people of Cape Town, and in particular the people of Mitchell's Plain. The AG found that the city failed to spend almost 2.5 billion in capital budget and 1.5 billion in operating budget. These are billions that were meant to change the people's lives in Mitchell's Plain. Mitchell's Plain people, the city doesn't work for you. It only works for those who live in the leafy suburbs and areas. You need only to look around you at your sports facilities, look at your roads, look at your streets. This is what the city of Cape Town, DA government thinks of you. Can we really be surprised that over the past several months, more and more municipalities have been lost by the DA, mostly in rural areas? People are seeing through your blue lies. Mense begin sien die waarheid.
Honorable
Local
Smith,
government
would you please
oversight.
wrap up?
Local government oversight under the MEC, who is holdover from the Zille days, is nothing but a shame. It is clear that the interest of the DA come before the interest of the municipalities and its people that suffers from a lack of services.
Thank
as a
you,
result.
Honorable Smith.
Something
Your time
is
is up.
brewing in the Western Cape, Speaker.
Thank you.
And that's something I cannot call, but I ask the Premier to attend to these issues.
Thank you, Honorable
Thank you, sir.
Smith. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Smith. I'm going to request, as I indicated earlier, Honorable members, that I gave Honorable Smith a special grant. So I will not give this grant anymore. So let us remain on the either side of the tables to speak. I just wish to request also from the honorable members that we just work together in terms of the rules. The whippery, please assist me on both sides, on either side. It will be easier if we do that. Then we don't have to go through what we've just gone through now with the previous speaker. And it's not fair to do that. May I then request Honorable Bartman to take the podium. I recognize you, Honorable Bartman.
Honorable Speaker, fellow South Africans, energy security is currently the biggest risk to the South African economy. Honorable Marais, earlier you mentioned that the trains are not running. I can truly tell you today, die treine loop nie, want Prasa wat aan die nasionale regering behoort, het nie hulle Eskom elektrisiteitsbil betaal nie. Prasa moet Eskom betaal. In terme van die energiesekuriteit, the National Treasury confirmed that Eskom did not spend the 250 million rand last year that was meant for electrification. Honorable Speaker, for Honorable Marais' question. Honorable Speaker, per hour, per stage of load shedding, the Western Cape economy sheds approximately 75,000 rand. The Premier indicated in his SOPA that the Western Cape province will help municipalities procure energy from independent power producers or IPPs. The Premier must please ensure that when this process occurs, that it is honest, that it has integrity, and allows the platform for municipalities to appoint the most competent IPP to show that Western Cape governance is different. 23 municipalities already have the necessary legislation in place for this procurement processes, 19 of which already have regulator-approved feed-in tariffs. It is further encouraging that bid window 5 in terms of the IRP will be opening soon, an announcement also welcomed by Eskom. It will reduce electricity prices and allow Eskom the space to conduct critical maintenance on its various plants. Maintenance for Eskom stations should be legislated in order to prevent this in the future. Honourable Speaker, while this announcement needs to be welcomed, President Ramaphosa needs to provide us with concrete deadlines for the implementation of his undertakings. The reason I mention this is because on the 9th of February 2001, the then President Thabo Mbeki made a similar undertaking during his SONA address, stating, quote, "With regard to the energy sector, among other things, our decision will entail restructuring the electricity supply and distribution industries to introduce greater levels of competition. Independent power producers will be allowed into our energy system and localized energy grids for rural areas to be developed," unquote. Honourable Speaker, that was more than 19 years ago. Every resident should have the opportunity to generate their own electricity, to sell their excess electricity back into the grid, or even wheel extra energy to larger consumers within their vicinity, therefore generating an extra income for their household. And thus it is welcoming that solar PV will be rolled out even further in this province. It is further welcoming that NERSA will continue registering small-scale distributed generation for under 1 megawatts without requiring a license. But ideally, we need to increase this to 10 megawatts. And I urge the Western Cape government through the Premier's office to engage the Minister on this front. Further, the Western Cape government has recently released a feasibility study into integrated liquefied natural gas. And this should be applauded, as the study shows that Saldanha Bay Port is the most suitable port for the importation of liquefied natural gas, given that Ankelig and Gerikwa stations are already originally built to accommodate gas. And I went to go see this for myself at Eskom, at Ankelig, to speak to the officials, to show me the turbines and how the pipelines will be rolled out. It is thus imperative that Transnet upgrades the Saldanha port, as well as that the Eskom board approves the full conversion of the Ankelig station from an open cycle gas turbine diesel power station to a combined cycle gas station, serve as the anchor off-taker of liquid natural gas and therefore generating an additional 700 megawatts. By simply converting Ankelig power station, there will be a saving of $16.4 billion between the 2024 and 2050 forecast period. And in the Western Cape province, this could amount to a 13% investment return. Honourable Heron, you spoke about carbon emissions.
Honourable
and I would like
we need to wrap up.
I would like to applaud you for that. Please, the liquefied natural gas, by replacing just one 500 megawatt coal-fired power plant, it will be the same as liquid natural gas taking 557,000 cars off the road. Honourable Speaker, if Eskom is unable to generate electricity for us, then we must do it ourselves. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Batman. Thank you, Honourable Batman. I now recognize, Honourable members, I now recognize Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker.
You're welcome, sir.
Speaker, we heard the Premier's State of the Province address. And Speaker, I just want to concentrate on two things. The election promises that the Premier has made. A provincial police service and a provincial metro rail service. Yet the Premier knows that he does not have the mandate to have a provincial police service. He knows that, and yet he makes empty promises to the electorate. He comes with a safety plan that's going to cost the taxpayer 1.4 billion rand. Make community safer, a safety plan that will rot to the end. Because, listen what Becky Cele, the National Minister, says. He says, these law enforcement officers walking around, killing a policeman as a bunch of thugs.
They're not properly trained. They're not properly trained. So we need, they say they people walking around carry guns, minor certificates, and they need to be in prison. They killed a policeman, and the policeman reached for his certificate. They shot him more than once. These law enforcement officers are not trained, and they need to be trained. But, like I said before, Metro Police is the solution. Neighborhood watches is the solution. Because neighborhood watches walk day in and day out in the communities, and they know what's happening. But when we came to Mitchell's Plain the other day, there's a fight between the neighborhood watch and the CPFs. The CPFs is supported by the ANC, that is what I hear, and the neighborhood watch is supported by the DA. So you have problems. If that is true, then these two political parties must shame themselves because our political agenda is driven before the safety of our people. And let me say this further. Yes, we all talk about Taslie van Wyk, and we mourn her death. But we don't forget, we will not forget Hineni that was killed, gone to a post office. We will not forget Jesse Hess that was murdered. And we ask this Premier to speak to the President and have a referendum of the death penalty. Because the ACDP supports the death penalty. Our schools is out of control when it comes to safety. Our schools is out of control. And we say, wat vir ons gewerk het, dan sal nou werk. Corporal punishment must be brought back to our schools. Pay die bompie terwyl die jonk is. I want to further say that we do not agree with the National Health Insurance. We cannot agree with that. The ANC cannot even control ESCOM, cannot control SAA. Now they want to take our money and steal our money. We cannot allow that. We must stand up, and I want to support the Premier with that. The other thing that I want to say is this taking land, our land, that gives us arms off. We must enable our people to protect their land, and we will stand for that. The ACDP says there must be fair redistribution and not stealing of land. So we will fight when it comes to our rights. And the people in Mitchell's Plain must remember, they're not just talking about the farmers, they talk about your land and my land. That is what they're talking about. Let me say further. We visited the province, and the province, we need more schools of skills. I've got an article for the week in August 2019. 39,000 students, high school students dropped out. But when we went to schools, we saw the skills, the school of skills, where people can become carpenters, where they can become mechanics, where they can do hairdressing. That is what we need. We need more schools of skills, and that will take our youngsters off the roads. Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me just say this further, and this is so important. I want to come back because our neighborhood watchers, when they walk the streets, they get 10,000 rand for the year. It cannot be. You do not have the same problems in Mitchell's Plain that we have in the other areas. Even in Mitchell's Plain, the tafels is not the same as the Portland. So we need to look at how we resource these people, because they give their lives. And the one thing they ask us, as a standing committee came, he said, can we maybe look at somehow that the department gives us something to have some life cover? These people protect our properties, and they know what's happening. I believe that if we do that and we resource our neighborhood watchers, we resource our community police forums, we will not sit with crime. Because the solution is not more law enforcement officers. The solution is get our communities involved. The safety cabinet Premier, I did not hear once that there's community members or heads of neighborhood watchers of CPFs involved. Get them involved. They know the answers, and they know exactly what to do.
Thank you, Honorable
So we want you, Premier, to look at these things, because safety is everybody's problem, and your child is my child. And when you touch my child, I will come for you. So Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say, the ACDP is serious when it comes
Your
to
time is
community
up.
safety.
Thank you very much, Honorable,
Thank you,
Honorable
Deputy
Christians. Thank you. Honorable members, I would like to recognize the Honorable Minister of Health, Honorable Mbombo. Honorable Minister, your time is now.
Honorable Premier, Speaker, members of the House, guests in the gallery, the media, Kuyamore. Firstly, I would like to thank the Premier for giving direction and a hope to the people of the Western Cape, specifically for the Mitchell's Plain. I also, Speaker, the Premier has commanded that this year we do not talk, we act. Let's get to work. But I just want to add, as a health, we are using that motto of the universal health coverage, leaving no one behind. I want to state it categorically that the Western Cape Department of Health supports universal health coverage, UHC, and we are advanced when it comes to piloting that. UHC is an international approach implemented already in about 23 countries all over. The pillars are based on human rights and justice, that on virtue that you are a human being, you deserve quality health services. The package is preventive, promotive, curative, rehabilitative, and palliative care. All these must be accessible and cover the whole population, irrespective of age, the location, whether you are rural or in urban, and they must be affordable to all without any financial burden, and there should be no payments at the point of service. This is a matter of justice. This is the matter of equity, and it's a matter of the human rights. That is UHC. Speaker, the NHI, which the ANC piloted, by the way, this is the phase 2 of the NHI that they are introducing the bill. They introduced the phase 1 of the pilot of the NHI 2012 to 2017 for over 5 years. But if you look at the evaluation, their own evaluation, the proof, it shows that the country doesn't need NHI. The country needs UHC. The country needs UHC. 5 years in 11 districts when they piloted this. KZN, they even had 3 districts. For Western Cape, we piloted in the Eden. Now, if in terms of looking at all of those, like KZN, which has piloted in 3 districts, look at the health system of the KZN, where they don't even have specialists, when they have no oncology, where we have to save them and bring patients, plus the doctors who still have to finish their training to the Western Cape. And they've piloted the UHC. Just look at that. The budget, if you look at the budget, the under expenditure, for the 5 years, the budget expenditure was about 76%. They only spent 76%. Look at Gauteng, only 56% of the NHI for the whole of the 5 years. Look at those. The people of George, Parkersdorp, they are still waiting for their extension of the clinic, which was part of the NHI, and they're still waiting. It's pilot phase 1 that we are talking about. Speaker, guess what? Do you know what? Where is the money of that phase 1 pilot of NHI? The president, not at this SONA, previous SONA, if you recall, made a promise. Human resource stimulus package. We're going to appoint more staff. We're all excited. And then he even said, whether it's porters, whether it's the cleaners and all of those, appoint more staff. And we're all excited that there will be more. And even the National Minister of Health also made a promise about that. Guess what? Dololo, there's no money. The president was going to use the NHI pilot 1 that was underspent to use it as a stimulus package. And the National Treasury said that, no ways, I'm the boss here. They took the money back. So we're sitting with nothing. Shocking, Mr. President. Provinces didn't even receive, as indicated, no money. Health staff across the provinces are experiencing services pressure. More people are presenting with a cocktail of the burden of disease. The more people are unemployed, the poorer they become, and more they will depend on the public services. The long waiting times, not only in the Western Cape, it's everywhere. Because you mustn't be, again, let's not politicize health. Let's not politicize health, because it's about the health of the people. It is happening everywhere. We are keeping on bailing the SOEs. How many SOEs have been bailed? Have ever heard when they say they'll bail health? Never. They've never bailed health. Read again. Look at the bill, NHI bill. Read it again. There's nothing that talks about the health services. It's all about the centralization of funding from the provinces to the national department by appointing extra staff. I think about 100 staff, 88 for now, that they're going to appoint in order to manage the NHI. Do you know what the provinces will be doing? It's going to be the forensic pathology. It's only going to be the medical services, but nothing else. Everyone knows, and it is undisputed, that health is wealth, wealth is health, and investing in health has triple returns. The economy, development, the healthy population, and bridges inequalities. This has been the compelling reason why the Western Cape is the only province where it has prioritized health, has got a bigger slice. If you look in terms of the slice from the provincial government to the Department of Health, and if you look at other provinces, Northern Cape is about 7%, the KZN is below 30, which is the required norm, by the way. At least they say that at least 30% should be around that. Check how National Treasury also has been decreasing the health sector budget, because we're talking about prioritizing health. If you say that health is important for the national government or for the ANC government, how come the health sector budget has been decreasing for the past years? The central hospital budget, which is the hospitals like the Tigerberg and Grooteskill, there was a time where there was no budget allocation for those. And the Western Cape government has to pick up and save the hospitals. And now in the phase 2 of the NHI, they say they'll take those hospitals. Richards Plain will be left with no central hospitals if you allow that NHI happen. Yet we are the ones who use our money to bail those hospitals when there was no money at all. Yes, we do have challenges. The current South African health system is not working. It fails the anti-SARAs. There are valid reasons for health reforms, Speaker, that this should happen. NHI in this form is not a solution. We need to fix the current system. But ANC mustn't lie to people just because they're desperate and say NHI is a solution. We cannot gamble with people's lives. We mustn't lie. We mustn't lie. The National Finance Minister has indicated that NHI is expensive. Therefore, everyone is unsure even if budgets will be reduced for any other year. But as Western Cape, we're already working with the stakeholders and the private partners to ensure we implement universal health coverage. Speaker, no UHC without human resource. Now, I'm being reminded that 2020, the World Health Organization declared 2020 as the year of the nurse and midwife. Nurses are instrumental in ensuring that we achieve UHC. The Western Cape has over 13,000 nurses in 7 communities, and it's not enough because we have seen the increase of the population in the Western Cape. We have seen the burden of disease. We need more, but we will celebrate to make sure that we recognize them. We have got the year-long provincial plan. It's upcoming. The emergency medical services. I recall the last time I did oversight, I went with an ambulance here in the Mitchell's Plain in the middle of the night, where we have to go via the police station. The issue of now of the crime that makes for the ambulances to go via the police station for the escort, it impacts on the priority one.
Minister, will you please take your seat? What's your point of order, Honorable
No, I
Murray?
want to know if the minister is prepared to answer a question, please.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a
I don't
question?
have much time. Sorry, sir. I don't have much time. Just WhatsApp me.
Please proceed, Honorable Minister.
Staff security and safety remains a
Honorable
serious
Minister,
risk.
There's another point of order. Will you please take your seat?
Must I speak?
Will you please take your seat? Yes, Minister.
Speaker,
what is the point
just
of
on a
order,
point of order,
Minister?
could you
Honourable-
please rule on this particular issue related to Honourable Murray's question? It's not often that the Honourable Member wants to ask a question, and I think it's always interesting to hear what that question will be. But the Minister said,
Thank you. That's not a point of
she's
order.
worried about her time.
Please
but
take your seat,
is that,
Honourable.
can she not get given extra time
That's not
to
a
answer
point
that
of order.
question?
No, I can't. The programming authority give me the time, so I can't. Please proceed, Honourable Minister.
Can you give her an extra 1 minute so that she can respond to that question?
Please proceed, Honourable Minister. No, thanks, Honourable Members. Order. Honourable Minister.
Okay, thank you. As part of the safety, we have to ensure that we prioritize our staff, not only for the emergency, but we appeal to the communities. They must understand that an attack on the EMS is an attack on the whole system. It's also an attack on the Constitution itself, because Section 27 of the Constitution does state that no one can be denied medical services. But now, when we ended up having staff that ended up not being able to pick up the patients, it impacts on that. Also, Speaker, the Premier spoke about the safety plan, where health contributes through the first 1,000 days. Let me share some of the additional activities that we have already implemented in the metro, noting that we have already piloted first 1,000 days outside metro in Saldanha and Drakenstein. In the metro, specifically in the Mitchell's Plain, one part of it is about we have strengthened the contraceptive methods and child spacing by improving access, especially to emergency contraceptives. I must indicate also as well that we've got a challenge, stockouts when it comes to contraceptives. Although Western Cape is doing far better because we rely on the national, we have yet where we find that there are no contraceptives anywhere in parts of the country, but we have managed to be able to improve that access. And this, we're able to do it through the public-private partnership. You go to the Promenade Mall now and go to the Discam, you go to the clinics, you go to elsewhere, we are providing these contraceptives, plus also the vaccines for the children, free of charge, so that it could have an access everywhere. Isn't that universal health coverage? It is a coverage, access, access, access. We also link all pregnant women who gave birth in our hospitals and everywhere to community-based services, so that they can be followed, the children can be followed at households, so that we can be able to limit the traffic that goes to the health facilities. To this end, we also focus on integrated team community outreaches, promoting WOGA, which is the whole of the government approach, where all departments, social development, safety, DCAS, and all of those, including the local government, City of Cape Town in the metro, and also the WOSA, which is the whole of society approach, where we work also with the NGOs in order to ensure that there is an access. For this, we can be able to identify at-risk mummies and babies, especially the teenage moms, where also in the families where there's a substance abuse and alcohol abuse. This
Honourable
initiative has
Minister,
led
you must try and wrap up.
Sorry?
You must try and wrap up.
Okay. This has led to stimulation of the babies, bonding, education, and support. We even have got mom-teen support groups. For example, if you go to Makassar, there are postnatal community groups in the Kalaisha and so forth. And then lastly, Speaker, probably I'll talk about it in my budget speech. The Cuban doctors. The Cuban doctors. I must state it
Minister.
Yes, I must state it categorically that that we do not take Cuban doctors based on ideology is not true. But I'll expand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, honourable members. I would like to draw your attention, honourable members, to the following. As we all know, the convention in the House, the next speaker, Honourable Brenkes, this is his maiden speech. Now, I would like to equally warn Honourable Brenkes that the maiden speech is dependent upon your conviction. If you provoke response, you will get it. But if you don't, you'll get none. I now recognize you, Honourable Brenkes. It's a rule.
Thank you,
Francis.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Honorable Premier, honorable leaders of political parties, and members of the legislature, heads of provincial departments, respected guests. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning. Molweni. Goeiemorgen. Just recently, we have all taken an oath to uphold the national and provincial constitution and to respect all laws that govern our country and province. The Constitution professes a better life for all citizens. Thousands of people, young and old, made many, many sacrifices. Some paid with their lives against oppression. We honor and remember our fallen heroes. Education is very close to the heart of Al Jama, as it shapes the lives of our future generation and that of our country. I quote Malcolm X, "Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." Al Jama is opposed to the comprehensive sexuality education, CSE, and view the content of the explicit sexual material as porn. The comprehensive sexual education to be taught from grade 4 to grade 12 learners, it does not cover morality associated with sex. Sexual dysfunctions and deviations and the institution of marriage. The CSE is devoid of morality and is in many ways unacceptable to our value system. Members of the public have lodged several complaints at the national and provincial parliament constituency offices against the CSE. Parents are against the CSE and feel their role in this matter has been undermined. Al Jama will not hesitate. Al Jama will not hesitate to lay criminal charges against the Western Cape Education Department. Teachers and principals who are teaching porn to our children, exposing children to explicit sexual material. It is a violation of the current Sexual Offences Act. Honorable Premier, still on education, we commend the province for coming to the assistance of struggling private religious schools in poor areas. Prior to the new South African Schools Act, many of these poor private schools were compliant. However, with the new act, they faced challenges and thus fell behind with meeting the necessary requirements. You have also stated that schools in the province are faced with overcrowding. You have also stated that the schools in the province are faced with overcrowding and we do not have enough schools. We appeal to you not to close the private religious schools who have been non-compliant due to administrative issues, but rather to put a strategy in place to train and assist these schools with their challenges that they are facing. The Ikhlasi Nia school is now compliant and accommodates children from townships and surrounding areas. We thank the Western Cape Education Department for assisting them, and appeals to the department to assist other poor private schools too. Honorable Premier, you have stated very proudly of the increasing pass rates at schools in the Western Cape. And we indeed we are happy to hear that, but you have failed to mention the high number of schools where there had been no or little improvement on pass rates. At the beginning of your speech, you said the people want government to give their basic rights, and that the Western Cape government has delivered.
Will you please wrap up, Honourable Member?
Where are the basic rights of our children on the Cape Flats and in the townships who are exposed to gangsterism, drugs and other crimes? Where are the basic rights to be taught in a safe environment? Where are the basic rights of teachers
Honourable Member, your time
to teach
is
in a
up.
safe environment?
Thank you, Honourable Brancase. Thank you. Honourable Members, I now recognize Honourable Nkondla.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mandizibuyisele kumntu wonke okhoyo apha namhlanje. Let me start by following suit to thank your leadership, Honorable Speaker, that has brought Parliament and its SOPA to Mitchell's Plain in 2020. An intention that is noble to provide communities their constitutional and democratic right to participate in decisions about their daily lives. Important for us that this is not just a sheer tick box exercise, but as the ANC, we commit through the leader of the official position that as the ANC will be convening a People's Assembly in Mitchell's Plain to listen to the people of Mitchell's Plain and work out what we can do with the help of our national government in this community. It becomes important when we reclaim the United Democratic Front, which was a uniting platform and was launched in 1983 here in this venue, that when the state then introduced the tricameral parliament to entrench divisions amongst the black majority, it called for a single, united and unfragmented South Africa. A South Africa that will continue to fight for, and acknowledging and respecting Honourable Mare, the notion of federalism that we have actually seen being led by the DA here in this province to create through the decade of their leadership an Oranje in this province, where actually the 6 million citizens of the Western Cape who remain are and continue to be South Africans and are part of the 54 million citizens are actually kept into an enclave of white supremacy. So if there is any conversation about revisiting the CODESA declarations regarding how we structure our country in terms of its governing system, surely within the rules of this country, we must then recall or ask for a CODESA tool so that we can also include in that conversation the discussion about land. It is important that we do not sit here in this house and actually be denialist about the situation of land. As we listen here, with many members that have spoken, especially from the Democratic Alliance, that actually create a scarecrow, create a scary movie, and actually theatrics as a lobbying group for those that they represent. They stand here and provide lies about a process, a legal process that the ANC-led government has actually ushered. That South Africa continues to be a constitutional democracy, and indeed the process of land reform has actually been called for through a constitutional amendment. So I'm not sure where the members talk about a stealing of land. Indeed, our land, which now must actually be returned through a legal process, was stolen and was taken illegally. Democracy affords all of its citizens to actually review any process. That is why there's nothing wrong in South Africa if to date members and citizens of South Africa are calling to actually revisit the land situation in the country. And as the DA is protecting property rights, as we heard from Provincial Minister Mayor, it is important to note that also the report of the inequality report by Stats SA continues to tell us who is owning property in this country and also in this province, that he actually stands and defends here. That the asset and wealth inequality actually is very stark in this particular province, with black people, both colored and Africans, the worst in as far as owning assets or wealth. And therefore, when you talk about this cash in the bank, who are you talking about? Because the same banks that you are referring to, actually majority of our people, including the people of Mitchells Plain, have got savings accounts in the main in those banks. So theirs is to deposit and withdraw money and still continue to pay extra cost of actually withdrawing their money from the same banks. So who are you speaking for in this particular platform? And actually, we have not heard your voice, Provincial Minister Mayor, about the rampant evictions in this particular province, the deplorable working conditions of farm workers in this particular province. So whose interest and who are the people that you are speaking on behalf in this platform? Allow us, Honorable Speaker, to indicate that actually it is important for us to remember that here, again, in this particular province of ours, we ought to be saved by the UDF spirit, that the toddler serving leadership style that is always portrayed in this house should help our people in the province to invoke the spirit of the people's power that the UDF and people who are sitting here spoke about. Clearly from 2019 till now, anyway, a common feature in the governance style of this DA-led government, the concept of people is a very skewed one. It's left to semantics and political rhetoric and never found in their ethos and planning paradigm. This government, as confirmed by its premier and his predecessor, knows to engage private sector as their key constituency to drive their program of governing this province. Other social partners or social forces in the form of civil society and labor as part of the non-state sector are viewed with suspicion and rather left to the sidelines. In most, if not all of its government engagement to find solutions of the people, the Premier tells us he passionately is working for the people. He clothes himself with and crafts solutions with the big guns. The commercial sector, the academia, and no information about how he is engaged communities, no labor, as if they do not have views on how their lives can be improved. A known feature of a liberal approach and their belief that only elites and those affluent individuals have a voice, as the saying goes, money talks, or in township slang, fakima luzobona. This has produced the type of income and wealth inequality that the Stats SA inequality trends reported. Western Cape is experiencing the highest inequality, where the top 10% of the population in the province shared 9 times more of total provincial expenditure than the bottom 40%. This is the stark reality, and we want to hear you, Premier, speaking about that. The provincial government, through its provincial treasury, has been producing 2 reports over the years, the Provincial and Municipal Economic Review Outlook, that is the PERO and MERO. Both of these, especially the latter, have been revealing what the inequality trends confirmed. The question is, what has this government been doing with such data and analysis? So these blue books remain just blue books, with no effect to policy and decision-making of the province. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, that I'm sure this provincial government has attended in 2017 and 18, warned countries that an economy is not a business. And history and scholarship and scholars have shown that there is a feedback loop between the bottom and top lines, which is growth and equity in a national economy. They further argue most citizens evaluate their respective countries' economic progress not by published GDP growth statistics, but by changes in their household standard of living. Agreeing with that sentiment, we can hope, Premier, that clean audits should not only be the only measure of this province's clean government. Including in your clean government should be service delivery and the satisfaction of citizens. We repeat, as we said in last year in your SOPA, a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest. Let us remind you, Premier, on the promises that we have made last year in your SOPA. You said that the province has attracted 100 billion in foreign direct investment. Please tell the Mitchells Plain community, of this 100 billion rands, how much of that investment was shared with this community? The once booming town center that even myself growing up in Guguletu, I used to travel and come and buy things in the town center, has become a ghost town where infrastructure is debilitated and home to criminal activities. So, Member Mackenzie, what have you been doing to ensure that actually these billions of investment also touch town center here in Mitchells Plain? Cape Town has been named, you said, Premier, the top financial center in the sub-Saharan Africa. The question is, the financial sector we had last year, that it's abusing employees to a point that they resorted to a public strike that had to be halted. The city of Cape Town was last seen here abusing the same fighting workers that were expected to parade yesterday, and clearly a behavior in this province that is non-compliant with the international obligations of the right to work. Again, you spoke about a job in every household, Premier. Where are those? How many have been realized in the job numbers you gave yesterday for households in the Cape Flats and many others in the non-metro? You spoke about Mfuleni as an example. Actually, a secretary of Mfuleni Business Hub was telling us of how in Mfuleni to date, that particular Mfuleni Business Hub you referred to, actually it does not have water, does not have electricity. So there's still a lot of job for you. As the ANC, we believe that a lot of our challenges can be addressed through a shared and inclusive economy. It is the Freedom Charter which said the people shall share in the country's wealth. In this regard, we want to hear the Premier talking about plans he has for local economic development in Mitchells Plain and other areas populated by poor people.
Thank you, Honorable Mkontra. Thank you, Honorable Mkontra. I now recognize Honorable Minister of Community Safety, Honorable Fritz.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Mr. Speaker, Premier. Good morning, colleagues. On my side, cabinet colleagues, the community of Mitchells Plain and other places. It's not just Mitchells Plain. It just happened to be Mitchells Plain. All our councillors, Councillor March, I see you. It's good to see you. And all our colleagues in the red at the back, very welcome to our parliament. We are an inclusive government, Speaker, a very, very inclusive government. I want to start off on a very sad note, Mr. Speaker and Premier. And I'm very serious now, don't make jokes. Listen, please. Mr. Speaker, we start on a very sad note. And again, as we all know, another child was murdered in this province. Another young girl, 8 years old, by almost a system that failed the child. You know? A child who was kidnapped, murdered, and possibly we were looking at the evidence of whether the child was raped, Mr. Speaker. But through a very basic issue that we raised with national government, and I raised it on Tuesday with some of the officials, that the early parole system must be evaluated. It must be reassessed. It must be looked at. And unfortunately, we don't have any competency over the prison system. And, you know, last year, December, I must remind this House that 2,500 prisoners, can you keep quiet? 2,500 prisoners. We're quite serious, remember, Mr. Speaker, we are very serious debate. And there's a child dead and that man is laughing. 2,500 in December were released on early parole. Prisoners were released.
Order, honorable members. Let's allow the minister to proceed.
It's an absolute scandal. Of that, something like 14,000 prisoners were released nationally on early parole in December because of a criminal justice system, and I'm speaking specifically about the correctional system that failed us. And so we want to extend our sincere condolences to the
Honorable
family.
Minister, will you please take your seat? Is that a point of order, Honorable Smith?
Point of order, Chair.
What's your point of order?
The Honorable Minister made mention that the Honorable Lily laughed because of a child that is dead. Can the Honorable Minister please clarify that statement? because that is not the case.
That's not a point of order, Honorable Member. If there is a point that the member needs to raise, you can use Rule 65 to deal with that. May I please recognize you, Honorable Minister?
Thank you, Speaker. And I think the point I'm emphasizing is we are talking serious stuff. This is serious. You know, there are people sitting here. This is not time to joke and to laugh about serious issues. And so, again, we want to say what we are doing practically. We want to really extend our sincere condolences to the family. But we're also asking, and I can tell you there's some interesting movements, Premier, on the issue of getting this case fast-tracked in the criminal justice system. Getting this case to this morning, it appeared in the Gudud Magistrates Court. I can tell you we are calling on the National Department of Prosecutions and the National Prosecuting Authority to fast-track it to the High Court so that we can, even on the charges of murder and of kidnapping, if we can secure those two convictions and the DNA test and the results will come later, we can just secure so that communities can see that we are doing something and to hold these criminals to account and not to let them get away with murder, literally, what's happening under the ANC government. I want to further say, and I'm very happy to say, that I know at a very high level they are looking at this and that they are paying attention to fast-tracking this case to go to the High Court, not to stay in the Magistrates Court forever and to move fast. I also want to say on a more happier note, because the ANC seems to be the only people to be able to claim history. I was in this hall in 1983 when the UDF was launched. I was one of those members in this hall. So history don't belong to you. In fact, most of those people are now on the DA side governing this province. I just want to remind you, because some of you are so young, you have no clue of history, and perhaps we must give you a lesson of history. And I want to make that point. And so it is very, very interesting when the Honorable Dagmo suggests that...
Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat? Is there a point of order, Honorable Said?
Yes, Speaker. Again, Honorable Fritz is repeating what certain other speakers have done by saying you when he's trying to promote his sense of ageism here, but he's saying you. He must not say you, he must speak through you as a speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Said. On the point that you raised, I'm going to request, thank you, Honorable Lily, please switch off your mic.
Oh.
Thank you. Now, let's also observe the Rule 40 of our rules, of our standing rules, so that we don't have running commentary throughout the speech as the member is speaking. Honorable Minister, will you please address the House through me?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think also it speaks to how young some of the people are. They are so childish. They all the time get up on points of order. So it shows that, I don't know whether they're a bit early for politics. Perhaps they must go to the creche next door. Mr. Speaker, it is so, I find it interesting that the Honorable Dagmo is now suggesting that this hall has already been declared a provincial heritage site by the provincial heritage and by our Department of Arts and Culture.
Excuse me, Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat? Is there a point of order?
On a point of order, Speaker, you have, on a point of order, Speaker, you have been referring most of us, especially right through the session, in terms of Rule 59, where you were saying that members should not cast aspersion to other members without submitting a substantive motion. And when Honorable Predel was referred to by Honorable Smith that he has stolen or something to that effect, he had to withdraw that. Now, I was watching, it's now the second time, honorable members from your right-hand side, they are always casting aspersion to this side. The first one was when Honorable Said wanted to raise a question to the Honorable Dr. Mayor on asking, he says he does not take questions from unintelligent people.
That was exactly what he said, meaning that either the honorable
so.
is stupid or is not intelligent. That's what he said. And the second issue now, the honorable member.
Order, honorable members, let's hear the point of order.
The honorable member now is saying other members here are children or they are child. They don't know what they are taking. So if I may request, if can that honorable member withdraw that statement to say that other members here, they are still child or they are still children. If I may just request that he withdraw that statement.
Thank you, Honorable Mbimbi.
And he was
Thank
not.
you. The Honorable, thank you very much, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister, please take the podium. Honorable Minister, did you say the members are children?
As a childish, there's a difference between being a child and childish. Adults can be childish. Perhaps you must teach a lesson in grammar or in.
Honorable Member, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members, please allow me to provide the ruling here. Honorable Minister, Honorable Members are Honorable Members throughout.
Yeah.
And there is no childish Honorable Member, so please withdraw that.
So I will withdraw. It's a subjective opinion.
And proceed
but
with
I
the
will
debate.
withdraw. I will withdraw.
Thank
to
you.
get on, because the people can see how you're wasting time. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so, I just want to remind the Honourable Dartmore that it is indeed this provincial department that declared this UDF venue of 1983 a heritage, provincial heritage site, and it's us asking for it to be a national, not the minister, it's us asking it to be a national heritage site. So it is a point of clarity for the Honourable Member, who is a very good man in person, if it doesn't need to be on television. I also want to make the point, and I found it interesting listening to all our political parties. Yesterday, the Premier asked that all of us must endorse this new ethos of working together, supporting the new Provincial Commissioner of Police. Not one in their speeches came out in support of the Provincial Commissioner. And I want to again say unequivocally this morning, unequivocally I want to say, we support the new Commissioner because we want crime to be beaten in this province. We want the criminals arrested and behind bars, and we want all the criminals put away forever. And so, we don't even take note. When you make this point about Beckett clearly, I think Honourable Christians made the point, we don't even want to respond to that. Because it's in our interest of the people. It is our job to get a relationship with Honourable Beck, even though he said all the stuff he said, which is completely factually, legally incorrect. We want to continue with the relationship, Mr. Speaker, to get results in this province and to get more police officers appointed in this province. And I want to say to the Premier, thank you for driving that personally and that relationship building exercise personally. And so we really take this very serious, because this is the first time in the history of this province where we have 3 different spheres of government working actively together. You know, people say stuff in Parliament, that's why we don't want to comment on it. In private, many of us sitting here and everywhere might say complete different stuff.
Let us please,
privately with you.
Honourable Minister, please take your seat. I have requested, and I don't want to refer to specific members, but I don't want to get to that point. But I'm observing this, and it's continuing, and I'm requesting that let us please not have a running commentary. Let us exercise and observe Rule 40 of our standing rules, because it's going to be you next time. So let us protect it so that it's not directed at any of the members when they are taking the podium. This happens, so let's avoid it, so that we have a house that functions properly. Honourable Minister.
I completely lose my train of thought, because to be all the time interrupted is quite an issue. And it shows the disrespect, Honourable Speaker, that some of these members, that's why they don't get elected in this province. They get elected in other provinces, not here. I can now understand why no one in Mitchell's Plains ever elected, because they're so irrelevant. I also want to move on to the point that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition said, you know, this interesting point he makes, and everyone is making about we dropping to the 4th point, the 4th level, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. And no one says, have you ever thought and gone to those provinces and checked how many kids are excluded in grade 11 before they must go to grade 12 to write and to register for the matric exam? And 40% in many instances are excluded from writing the matric exam. And they are kept one side van hulle is die dom kinders, not in this province, honorable members and ladies and gentlemen. In this province, we respect every child. We give every child the opportunity to be fair and to write, because children also have dignity. And I think that's the difference. And of course, if we get everyone in, of course, even at the 4th place, it's brilliant. Because remember, we don't chuck children out of the system. The other point that we forget, and the other point we forget and that they don't want to listen to, Honorable Speaker, is that our retention rate is the highest in this province. And my figure that I have for retention rate is that we have a 64% retention rate. Met ander woorde, mense, kinders wat in die skool bly. Die laaste
Sorry,
ander
Honorable
provinsie.
Minister.
God,
Please
this guy
take your
must go
seat.
throw
What's
pow.
the point of order?
Sorry.
What's
Sorry,
the point
Speaker.
of order, Honorable Member?
Speaker, can the honorable member speak in a way so that we can hear him correctly, not to shout? Because at some point in time, we're interested
That's fine.
in his
That's
speech.
not a point of order, Member. Please take your seat, Honorable Member. Please proceed.
Honourable
All right.
Speaker.
Honorable Mitchell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, I'm rising on Rule 66.4, where a member may not disrupt the proceedings by raising points of orders that do not comply with the rules. I think the honourable members of the ANC is trying to break the speed of the Speaker, and I ask you to please protect him.
Thank you. May I please address that? Just in response to Honorable Mitchell.
The nearest
It will
other
be difficult, sorry, Honorable Member. Your time is safe.
Thank you.
Honorable Mitchell, it's not always possible to know what the member is going to raise, but I think the whippery must help me. So that at that level, Honorable Lily, please help me. What is important is that when we come to the House, it must have gone through that process so that the whippery helps members to know what rules to raise, what kind of point of orders they must raise here. But in this case, let us proceed so that we are able to continue the program.
So I said our retention rate in this province is 64%, Mr. Speaker.
Thank
the
you, Mr.
nearest other province in terms of retention rate, the children are dropping out like flies in those other schools in other provinces, is a pure small amount of 49.6% is Gauteng. Now you must compare apples with apples. And perhaps some of our colleagues in the opposition must perhaps also get perhaps a member of ABC through the Speaker, perhaps to arrange a workshop for them because they don't attend the committee meetings where the stuff is being told. They're absent from committee
Don't
meetings.
lie, don't lie.
And so that's the other problem. I also
Don't
want to
lie,
say
Charles.
further that I also want to say
Order,
Do you
order,
have a
honorable
speech or
members. Order. Minister, please try and wrap up.
the honorable leader of the opposition also says that we must use the SWAT clip, you know, the land for the smart city. But we are arguing, we want to get people out of the bundus. We want to get people away from, we want to bring them nearer to the sea or nearer to the city. You know, we don't want to have them on the outskirts. And this is the other point, the contradiction that some of our members have. Also, I won't respond to some of our DA members because I really want to get through to the opposition. But I think some points that Honorable Matikizela made is quite interesting. Because in this province, we want to say, we will continue whatever you say. We will continue to create jobs. Our youth
you,
need
Honorable
jobs
Minister.
in this country. We are creating
Thank you,
those
Honorable
jobs.
Minister.
And you can
Thank
sit
you.
and make a noise, Honorable Speaker, through you. They can sit and make a noise. We will continue to create jobs.
Your time is up, Minister. Thank you. Your time is up. Minister, your time is up.
Is my time up?
Your time is up, yes.
No, sir, man. You didn't stop the clock. That man disrupted me all the time.
I gave you an extra minute.
And then I think he must go back
Thank
to
you,
pool
Minister.
throwing.
Please take your seat. Thank you. Order. Order. Honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to adjourn this process. We'll suspend the House until 11:35. So we'll be back at 11:35 for the Premier to respond to the debate by members. So I would like to request that all the honorable members go to the minor hall, and the guests, there is refreshments just in front of the hall. Thank you very much. The House is suspended.
Speaker, could I just
Can I
ask?
request honorable members and guests, please don't move. We are
just want
going to conclude the procession, and then when we come back, we come as we are standing. But don't leave now until the procession is concluded.
I just
Honorable
would like,
member.
I would like to ask for my Muslim guests, has if the food also considered their dietary needs? Will
The
it
answer
be
is
allowed?
yes, thank you. The answer is yes, sir. Thank you very much.